website and just by click of a mouse be able to walk through the park. It's there already. I can share the link with you. It's there already. All we need to now is integrate it into the website. We're going to create the visual tools and create animation out of them. Okay, have the people wear the VR equipment. Okay, so they can actually have various experience with the man Kwame Nkrumah, with aspects of him. It could be the day he was declaring independence. It could be the day he made this speech here. It could be the day very various parts of him that we can create in animated forms and help people who, if they come here and they want, sometimes when you come, you have to wait for a tour guide. So by the time they are waiting for the tour guide, they can, for a small fee, be able to actually have this experience. We intend to create, at least in every month, one evening where we have beautiful music. A number of the things that I've said now are in the future, but they are in the very immediate future. They should be happening before the end of this year.
As more footsteps find their way here, so does the legacy of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah live on, not just in statues or stories, but in a deeper hold to broaden the horizon of more tourists visiting Ghana.
I'm also calling and advising the government that agriculture should not be handled politically as the previous government have been handling agriculture. It's a subject that you have to have the interest before you do farming.
Nicholas Fato was the Volta Regional Best Farmer in 1995 and the National Second Best Farmer in 1998. He's asking government to consider, as part of its reset agenda, halt all ongoing cocoa intervention projects across the country to ensure value for money.
My concerns mostly is the ongoing projects by the previous government. Even though the policies are okay, but the implementations, I felt it's not practically on the ground. For instance, let me take cocoa seedling. I'm sure they have a figure that they projected that they were going to produce for the year. You can go to the nursery, you realize that most of the seedlings have not been, the seeds have not been germinated. As a result, the nurseries are not in place. Some places you go there and see that even less than 20% of the projected nursery is available. So I feel for now, a proper reset, need a proper research on the projects.
He alleges that some farmers have still not been paid for their cocoa trees they felled during the rehabilitation project under the erstwhile MPP government.
Another one is rehabilitation of cocoa old farms. Whether it is true, whether it is working. They projected that they were even cutting the trees and paid the farmers. Some of the farmers have not even been paid. And the crops have not been planted. Sometimes the farmer takes it, he's very eager, so he goes in to fell the trees down. And the ceilings are not there. And whether the monies really have been paid or not. So if it is reset, the government have to come down and stop all ongoing projects. Do proper evaluation before 1 or 2 years.
This allegation has been confirmed by some affected farmers in the KGB district. Here is Gbande John, who had to use his personal funds to rehabilitate his farm after he initially felled his cocoa trees on the instructions and promised by Cocoa Board.
3 to 4 years ago, we were there and we had the information that Cocoa Board wanted to help farmers, especially those people that have disease farm or don't want to do a rehabilitation, old farms. They'll cut down your cocoa, they'll plant it for you, they'll take good care of it till 3 years, then they'll hand over the farm back to you. to you, the farmer. In actual fact, most farmers rejected that, let's say, agreement or the plan that Cocoa Board have for the farmers. Most people say they won't go into it. But in actual fact, some of us, we even enter into it and then we convince some farmers that, oh, if Cocoa Board said they want to do it, they will do it. So allow them to cut their cocoa. In actual fact, they cut a whole lot of people's farm. After cutting the farm, Cocoa Board will plant your cocoa for you. Then today, tomorrow, and then fortunately they were able to plant, let's say, most people's farm. They were able to plant the cocoa. Even sometimes up to October, November, you see Cocoa Board planting cocoa around October, November. And I was asking, why Cocoa Board will plant cocoa? How many months is left for us to get into dry season? A lot of people, some are left up to date. I'm telling you, if you enter somebody's cocoa farm, the cocoa trees that they cut down, you will not find one single cocoa tree. But some of us, let's say, were able to secure some money from somewhere, so we didn't give chance. I personally weeded my farm. After cutting the cocoa, I weeded it, planted it myself. They gave me seedlings. I went for my own seedlings, planted it myself, my own money. They did pegging for me and I planted it. The first year, I weeded it myself. The second year, they weeded for me. And that was all.
John also indicates that there are a host of aged farmers whose livelihoods have been affected by this unfulfilled promise.
If you see old men, around 70, 80 years old men that were depending on this old cocoa farm before they came to cut it, it is very, very annoying. Very, very annoying that this is what the Cocoa Board really did. And people are now wondering even how to get the daily food, get what to eat. It's become a very big problem. And I'm even happy if Cocoa Board will make investigation, they should come. I will take them from farm to farm.
To improve cocoa production, he believes farmers must be allowed to take care of their own farms since they are doing better than when government was supporting them.
I can tell you for sure that go to every farmer's farm today. The farm is more beautiful than when they were selling the cocoa to government. Because now the farmer is able to go to buy his own chemical, buy his fertilizer. Go to every village. They are selling chemicals, spraying chemicals for the farmer to spray. But government intervention, when they wait for the government is not going to bring it. But when the prices are good, the farmer will not smuggle. He will sell it to the PBC. I'm more even annoyed. And when you release the ceiling it will be in the dry season. You release a ceiling in October. Then October ending, the rain will stop. So we are part of our own problem in agriculture. So if we are resetting agriculture, Ghana as a whole, the first and foremost, we should reset from the ground of food. We should start from the grassroots, where 65% of the populace are doing the farming. We should respect our researchers. They are doing a good job. I know they don't even give them enough to do the proper research, but practically, we should be on the ground.
This allegation has also been confirmed by Kwamina Ajay, year 2020 Oti Regional Best Cocoa Farmer.
Managing your own farm is good, but it's not everybody that can get that money to manage his farm. You see, when government supply you with some medicines or chemicals, then you get your own. The small that you get and you do it, you attach it, then it will help you to manage the farm. So last year like this, there's no chemicals or no medicine like those black pulse medicine. You will not even get one unless you find your money and go and buy it. And that particular medicine, if you not spray it, then your cocoa will rot. You see. So how did you manage that? I want to know. For me, instant, I bought my own. I bought my own from the market.
On the smuggling of cocoa beans to neighboring Togo, the cocoa farmers are
trusted partner.
Where Duraplas goes, water flows.
PS Industries has introduced a new roofing system known as ColorLink Plus.
Flamingo paint, simply superior. Syntax tank, are you strong? Are you tough?
Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were going to occupy them.
The UNIBANK trial. The Attorney General has dropped charges because it says they have secured 60% recovery in that matter. Yes, the Attorney General has formally discontinued the criminal case against Dr. Kwabena Dufo and 7 others after we are told the state recovered over 60% of the alleged 5.7 billion Ghana cedi losses from the UNIBANK collapse. Where is the evidence? But is this justice? That's the question many are asking. The Auditor General's report talks about 109% surge in, let's not make any mistake about it, misuse and theft of public funds. The Auditor General calls it irregularities. What did they lead to? So that confirmation, that revelation about the spike in public sector financial irregularities rising from 8.8 billion in 2023 to a whopping 18.4 billion in 2024. What shall we make of it? Who is coughing out what? And the mid-year budget's review, is that a ray of hope for a broke economy? Is Atto forcing? We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters. I'm Samson Ladia Yanini, and this is your most authoritative news analysis platform, NEWSFILE.
Bongo. Hey, again.
Hello, thank you for calling MTN.
Yeah, this is Jerry. Jolly J for short.
Hi Jerry, how may I help?
These days I'm not happy with you guys at all. What you guys do is not cool, crowd.
How do you mean, sir?
You've been giving Bongo gifts all the time.
Who is Bongo?
Oh, Bongo, my friend. He purchased in my room. You don't know Bongo.
Oh.
I've been giving him free gifts, but I don't. That don't be gift is him.
That's MTN rewards, sir. You can also get freebies because on MTN, doing always gets rewarded. Doing more of the things you love. Talk, text, browse, and more, and you get to redeem free call time or data by simply dialing *550#.
Oh, sir.
Yes, and on Fridays, you can even get extra special rewards like food vouchers, shopping discounts, and much more.
Didn't tell me anything, no. He will move out. Doing gets rewarded, eh? Hey, but your voice is really nice, so. Would you like to know how I got the name Jolly J?
That won't be necessary, Mr. Jolly. Calling customer care service doesn't give you points.
I'm gonna call my mom. I'll call my grandma. I'll call my ex. That girl can talk, Papa. Hello, Mama. So what's the topic for today?
MTN.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. we have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
Now, let me tell you why you should choose Safari Valley as your conference destination.
The new conference building combines modern amenities with the tranquility of nature, providing the perfect backdrop for your next seminar and corporate retreat.
The only conference destination with so many activities, you don't have to travel to visit your tennis club, the gym, or the stables. They have it all.
Enjoy this rooftop viewing deck, basking in the sunlight with the sight of wild animals roaming freely in their natural habitat.
At my break, I'm able to practice my putting.
It's a unique experience that sparks creativity and rejuvenates the mind.
Visit Safari Valley Eco Resort in Ghana, bringing you closer to nature.
So, Charlie, the deal there, I almost get her.
Syntax pipe, as tough as it can get.
You get so sorry with your back, sorry. Oh, what you was a thing. What the cat never won. You can catch him. Hey! Now, I'm back.
Between a pie and carbon.
Hey, madam, pipe menu.
A syntax pipe. Metono, Omukacham send a one day pa. Say a fee, say a foam. The other pipe we be a yen gum.
Syntax pipe.
Why only key?
Come, madam. From today, syntax pipe in my pipe. No 2 ways.
When you know, pipe ben abe use.
SINTEX pipe.
Syntax pipe.
In a carrier. No hala.
Next in line, please.
Hi there. I've been hearing a lot about ABSA lately. People say you give more. Is this true?
Oh, it's more than true.
See, your rich auntie gets more from ABSA. Your childhood friend gets more from ABSA. Your favorite uncle gets more from ABSA. Your roommates gets more from ABSA. Digital solutions get more from ABSA. Rewards we bring get more from ABSA. 5-star treatment get more from ABSA. Preferential rate get more from ABSA. Easy banking and no ane ABSA. Instant loans and no ane ABSA. Bank Papa Party and no ane ABSA. FTK account and get more from ABSA. Yes! Join thousands of ABSA customers enjoying priority treatment, preferential rates, amazing rewards, and seamless digital solutions to help you write the next big chapter of your story. Sign up for an ABSA account today and get more. Your story matters. ABSA.
Welcome back. This is NEWSFILE, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on NEWSFILE, we put Ghana first. And to something's stake, Prof saved Ghana from moral and social decay. I'm talking about our Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. At the end of her tenure, this is what she'll be remembered for. That is the prayer of veteran journalist Animal Ashon, because he believes that the Vice President has a divinely ordained mission beyond her constitutional duties to lead a national crusade against moral and social decay. And this is how Enemy Lachon lays out this job, a new job for Nana Jane Opoku Ajiman. Well, welcome home, back home, Prof. And to life, and in all its fullness. I believe, however, that God called Nana Sumamba Jane Opoku Ajiman out of academia onto the pinnacle of political power and saved her from death for a mission. God has an assignment for this lady, and this assignment is not among her constitutionally sanctioned key performance indicators, KPIs. We're in a crisis. He says Ghana is going through its worst moral crisis, second only to the conditions prevailing in the nation a few years preceding the June 4 revolution. And remember that Mr. Sean has been around for a very long time. He started journalism when some of us were not born. His very first role in a journalism, a media house, was in the year I was born. So, dear Vice President, he has seen enough. He says Ghana has come to a time in its life when forces of immorality are overwhelming it. It is not just the deadly dog-eat-dog situation of thieves and cutthroats willing to lie, harm, or kill each other to acquire what society defines as success. God has allowed Nana to be elected and has saved her from death to perform this one KPI. That is, to declare and fight a war on moral and fiscal decay. Kufuor's Vice President, Aliyu Mahama, declared the war but did not execute it. You remember Do the Right Thing campaign? Rawlings started it, but he fought out of anger and did not know how to sustain it. He says, some have been saying that the boys are in the bush making money from galamsey, and the girls are chasing them right there for transactional sex. In the north of Ghana, and in fact in other places in the country, the north, a place hitherto untouched by moral decay, Red, I'm sure you have heard about Red, madam, has reduced young men and girls into zombies and sleepwalkers. I don't know how you feel when you see these images. In some towns in the central region, girls are said to be relocating to Takwa Western to bake and sell bread. They are chasing up the boys to the galamsey pits. Sex for money. This time, not sex for grades. Those remaining in the villages are doing striptease. The adult population is busily killing or being killed for political appointments. Their only way to be seen to have made it in life. Pastors, prophets see charismatic acrobatics as their way of profiteering from the work of God. Mr. Sean's plea, dear Vice President, is that you can choose to be the lame Vice President reading speeches and waiting for assignment from the President, or you can proactively use your position and womanhood, your voice, a very powerful one, to carve a niche in the moral and social redemption of Ghana. Ma'am, your voice is very important. There are a lot of NGOs that are in this place helping in this way, but your voice will make such a big difference. And why is a morality crusade needed? Someone commenting on Ghana's recent discovery of rare earth minerals, such as lithium, cobalt, nickel, and uranium, and others, said, "This nation is blessed beyond imagination." Blessed, yes, but immorality can turn it into a curse. Dear Vice President, here is your mandate. Let it be said of you that the first female Vice President worked to save Ghana from depravity. Thank you, Emile Eshon, and that will be my take.
When we connect, everything is possible. Whatever seems unreachable becomes even closer. Building partnerships, redefining the norms. Because when we connect, being there becomes possible, and new ideas come to life. Stay ahead and stay connected with MTN Business Broadband. Superior internet solutions that drive your dreams. Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh or call or WhatsApp 0244 308 111.
MTN. For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
So, Charlie, the deal there, I almost get her.
Syntax pipe, as tough as it can get.
You get so sorry with your back, sorry. Oh, what am I doing? You are something. What I can't never want to do with your catch. Hey! Na ampai utina yanka pai yanka bo eh madam pai many eh Syntax pipe me tono omo ka tell me say ne ho den pa say ye fie say ye fuom the the pipe ye bia eh ye ne dam Syntax pipe why eliki come madam. From today, Syntax pipe in my pipe. No 2 ways. We need a pipe ben abe use.
SINTEX pipe.
Syntax pipe. Have you been to Aqua Safari lately? Let me share my experience with you at the new Aqua Safari Resort. When you arrive, you're greeted by warm smiles and introduced to your 24-hour butler who already has your itinerary sorted. Enjoy water sports activities like jet ski rides, kayaking, water sliding, flyboarding, and castnet fishing. You can even have your lunch here on the boat cruise. Experience horseback riding, tennis, and some golfing amongst a host of other activities. Let the tour guides take you through the sceneries of the Volta River, the mangrove forest, the friendliness of the animals, local and exotic birds, pets while you pet and feed them. You can have this large space for your conferences, corporate retreats, and so many activities as part of the package. We chose to have our breakfast with a beautiful sunrise right in front of our cabin. We had an amazing experience and I can't wait to return for more.
Visit Aqua Safari Eco Resort in Ghana, bringing you closer to nature.
Let's talk hemorrhoids. Hemorrhoids are normal structures located in the anus of all mammals.
But it is only man who suffers hemorrhoidal disease because of the erect posture we have assumed and the squatting that we do to empty our bowel. Hemorrhoids consist of a special type of blood vessels which fill with blood when we are moving our bowel and help to cushion the anus against the force of transmitting the stool. Afterwards, they empty their blood, collapse, help seal the anus to maintain continence. Over time, these vessels lose the elasticity of their walls, become dilated, permanently filled with blood, leading to congestion of the hemorrhoids. The symptoms of hemorrhoids are bleeding and prolapse of the hemorrhoids when passing stool, itching and feeling of warmth in the anus and anal discharge. Laser, ligature, and longo are the modern, minimally invasive, most effective and painless methods of treating hemorrhoids today.
Winterba Hospital, First Ghana Colorectal Center, in to serve a peculiar health need.
You're welcome back. This is NEWSFILE. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. Here in NEWSFILE, we put Ghana first. My guest this morning, Isaac Adongo, he's MP, Bolga Central and Chairman Finance Committee of Parliament. Kojo Poku is Executive Director, Institute for Energy Policy and Research and member, MPP Communications Team. Dr. Eric Oduro-San is Chartered Accountant. He's a lawyer. He's former Director General, the Internal Audit Agency. Yao Apia Lati is Partner, Strategy and Transactions, Africa Infrastructure and Capital Projects Leader, Deloitte Africa. We are joined also by Professor Kofi Abochi, Dean of the UPSA Law School. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to NEWSFILE.
Good morning. Thank you. How are you?
Right. So I'm going to begin from Professor Kofi Abochi on the freeing, the nolli prosequi that has been entered by the Attorney General. And in our jurisprudence, the nolli prosequi is not questioned. And the Attorney General is not entitled to explain to any court, any judge, why he doesn't want to continue a case. But this Attorney General has decided to do something which is very good, that we have applauded. And we understand that on Monday, he's going to be giving explanations as to why Dr. Dufour, his son, and the 6 others who were in this criminal trial over the 5.7 billion Ghana cedi, loss will no longer be prosecuted. Let's quickly hear a couple of people who disagree on the arrangement, and then I'll come to you, Professor Abochi.
I embrace it fully, all right? It's a bold decision. It's the right thing to do. And, we've said it time ad nauseum that we need to improve our law in respect of non-conviction-based asset recovery. This is one of them, okay, even though we've not written it out in law, but practically this is what we call non-conviction-based asset recovery. You see, most of the time when we insist on convicting the person first before we recover, it takes years because, you see, these people are often strong people, rich, they get the best lawyers in town, and they can, let me put it crudely, once in a while we have to say it that way, they can get lawyers to delay, okay? And eventually the cases don't end in a conviction. You see, and so then we lose everything. So this is what we call half a loaf is better than none.
Now, but Martin, talking about
half a loaf is better than none. People will say
the AG has entered nolli prosequi. The normal
narrative will be that if you want to play mischief, you'd probably put it this way, that once there is 60% recovery of the amount lost of the state or alleged to have been mismanaged, it serves to encourage other future possible test cases to perpetuate itself, simply because the people within that space would find it more motivational and beneficial to steal so much, with the hope that they'll make away with about 40% of the amount allegedly inflicted on them as having been stolen. These are normal narratives that you may have from people who don't want to play mischief.
Right. So two lawyers, Martin and Abdullahi, disagreeing completely, opposite directions. Let's bring in the professor and hear from him about where he stands. Even though it's controversial to suggest that this is non-conviction based, whatever it is, because this is not. Professor Bochi.
Good morning, Samson. The reason the two lawyers disagree is precisely because we are in the realm of the exercise of prosecutorial discretion. When discretionary power is invested in someone, that person has the right to exercise judgment. And when people exercise judgment, it is not unusual to have third parties affected or third party commentators disagree on the basis for the exercise of that discretion. So the fundamental premise, the politics will take its course, but the fundamental premise is for us to just reduce things to the barest minimum, and that is, in the exercise of prosecutorial discretion, like all discretionary authority under the Constitution, two key provisions of the Constitution regulates the exercise of discretionary authority. But these two provisions agree on one fact, that the exercise of discretion is not unregulated, it is not unrestricted, and it shouldn't be capricious. And so when a person exercises discretionary authority and we do challenge that, we have to benchmark it against the provisions of Articles 23 and 296. And we would have to challenge it by showing that it is unreasonable. If we are not able to establish that, then we cannot impeach the exercise of the discretionary authority. The point I'll make at this stage is for us to remember that when an attorney general decides to exercise the power of nolle prosequi, which forms, among others, like withdrawal, part of the exercise of that prosecutorial discretion, there is always the liberty to recharge the person. There's always the liberty to come back on that. And so it's not as if this is foreclosed for the rest of all time. It is possible that in the future, the attorney general, this same attorney general, or some other attorney general, might decide to reopen the case in respect to the same facts, and the processes might go underway. So the point I'm just trying to stress is that the fact that the attorney general has come to a conclusion that the circumstances warrant a discontinuance of this case, that there are justifications that back a decision not to prosecute the formerly accused person involved. One can only comment on these, but the authority is vested in the Attorney General. And as I indicated, if we want to impeach it in terms of our own commentary, we'll have to establish that it is unreasonable. So the key question is whether the exercise of the authority is unreasonable.
Where do you stand? That we have a matter in which the state is said to have lost in excess of 5.7 billion in respect of this particular case. Then the Attorney General makes a decision that because we have recovered 60% of that money, he's comfortable not pursuing this matter any further. So the 60% will be about 3.4 billion. And then the question is, who is taking up the 2.28 billion that will be left?
So let me state one pro and one con, and then I'll indicate what my position is or what I think my position is in this matter. So the pro is this. First of all, when a court or an attorney general is making decisions on the preference of charges or the determination of guilt on a person, one of the key factors that are considered is the issue of scapegoating, whether or not the offense, the person is a repeated offender, and in this context, whether or not anybody has even been punished in respect of a similar behavior in the past. It would seem that there is a sense of scapegoating here, i.e., even if this had happened in the past, perhaps there hasn't been a prosecution, or perhaps there hasn't been, the state hasn't chased after this to ensure that there's a refund. So the accused person involved may perhaps be facing a scapegoating scenario, being scapegoated for the first time to demonstrate the state's resolve not to tolerate this moving into the future. And for scapegoat purposes, one is confronted with both punishing harshly to make a statement that this shouldn't happen again, but also one is confronted with the reality that this person is truly the first person being punished. Not only is there no template, but this person, unfortunately, is being used as a scapegoat. So should not unnecessarily be unduly punished. These considerations can pull a decision maker in different directions, and the Attorney General will have to make a consideration of whether or not the person should not be unduly punished, given the fact that he's the first person to face similar charges moving forward into the future. So I suspect that the AG might have confronted the fact that we haven't had anybody facing a similar punishment in the past, and so we shouldn't unnecessarily, unjustifiably punish him, or rather subject him to a rather high standard when others might have done this in the past and nothing happened. So the scapegoat effect might have weighed heavily on his mind. So that's one proof.
If we're talking about precedent, then the point will be that in the bank collapse, matters, the state has incurred in excess of 30 billion Ghana cedis in the cleanup exercise, as the previous government, sought to do. And in those pictures, you will see that our research team put side by side Dr. Dufour and Ato Essien. Ato Essien, the Attorney General the state determined that he had a liability of 90 million to pay. He pleaded and was able to pay almost about 40 million. But he's in jail.
Well, that's correct. Again, first of all, let's be clear. I do not know the exact considerations that went into the Attorney General's decision-making. I'm only second-guessing him, and I'm just using general principles to make a point. And the point I'm just trying to stress is a person making such a decision, especially in respect of someone who might be facing this for the first time or was among a group of people who faced a similar thing at the same time, will consider the scapegoating effect. But the point you've made is equally correct, i.e. the fact that we would have to have a comparator in mind. And the comparator or the comparative framework here, the person involved is probably in jail. If I did hear your figures right, it may seem that Dr. Dufour is paying higher, or rather is paying more than Mr. Ato Essien currently has paid. And
every individual bank and what their liability was.
Correct.
Out of the total of 420 financial institutions that were affected.
Correct. But again, I'm saying again, we are second guessing. But I'm just saying that if one looks at the figures and it seems that the payment being made by Dr. Dufour is proportionately smaller than that of Mr. Ato Essien, who's in jail, then of course there are questions to be raised, and then of course there are concerns in this case in terms of what exactly the metrics and mechanics in arriving at this determination is vis-a-vis another person who's in jail. The truth of the matter is, in many of these decisions, no two cases are alike. One consideration, for example, that is made by a court in the determination of sentencing, the consideration of extenuating circumstances or the aggravating circumstances. Decision makers at the level of preferences of charges also make the same considerations, whether or not there are extenuating circumstances. And those extenuating circumstances might, for example, include a consideration of whether the person has shown adequate remorse, whether the person has cooperated or collaborated in the recovery process, whether the person has even, quote unquote, snitched on other persons and therefore helped the state in the recovery of money from other third parties. The point I'm making is there's so much one doesn't know at this stage, and perhaps we might just want to wait and hear from him on Monday. But there's so much one doesn't know at this stage, and there would be a lot of second guessing and a lot of what if, or if X is that, then Y has to be this way. My point
as a taxpayer, we were saddled with a financial sector recovery levy. which has so far collected some 2.13 billion Ghana cedis, as in, so that we who didn't do anything wrong, me, the taxpayer who did absolutely nothing wrong in the bank collapse, which the state spent in excess of 30 billion, I am being asked to pay for the state's decision to spend that money for the recovery or the revival of the industry. As a taxpayer, how do you feel that this is how the problem is being resolved by the people that were accused, particularly in one bank, of a liability of 5.7 billion?
I'm a very unhappy taxpayer in that context, Samson. And there are examples around the world. The too big to fail American scenario. There are examples of how there were consequences and people had to pay certain prices for certain conduct. For example, one of the things that makes me very unhappy is the fact that the people who were at the helm of the regulatory regime in the country at the time, why are we not having answers? These were the people who were supposed to ensure that related party transactions were not only kept to a barest minimum, but in some circumstances just did not happen at all. If you hear some of the stories, it would seem that there were clear cases of fraud. And it does seem that people who were actually paid at the time to ensure that these things did not happen, those persons, I still haven't heard any charges being preferred against anybody, and I'll be happy to be corrected. So
you're right. You're right. Nobody is standing trial as a regulator or involved in the regulatory exercise over the bank collapse.
In some regimes, you will actually hear cases of regulatory complicity because these shouldn't happen. Now, apart from the regulatory issue.
And Prof. Abuchi, just a second. In fact, a former, deputy governor, who is now the governor of the Bank of Ghana, was to answer for some of these. But as we know, he was also let off on the basis that by an examination of the processes or the docket, there has been an advice that he was not liable or something. So he is now back as the governor of the Bank of Ghana.
Well, as I indicated, look, at this stage, one has to just look at things holistically. From the Attorney General's perspective, the difficulty we have at this stage, and it is a testament of some credit to the current Attorney General that he actually speaks to reasons why he makes decisions the way he does. The truth of the matter is the law allows the Attorney General to make decisions without explanations. And so we would typically not know what informs his decision, in this case, to accept the payment by Dr. Dufour and, bring matters to a close. We will not know the reasons for that. But as I indicated, the justification or one justification that one might proffer is the extenuating circumstance of the cooperation of the parties involved. If a party who is being charged or who has been charged provides sufficient evidence justifying his conduct, if that party cooperates or shows remorse, if that party repents, and if that party ensures that the state ultimately gains something from, or rather the state recovers something from whatever has been looted, so to speak, a decision might be taken, which I might find plausible. This one, on the face of it, the justification for it is the fact that the state has made some money, i.e., the state is not losing entirely in respect to the party involved. The questions about what happens to the balance of the amount involved is one that is a plausible question to be asked by the state. But in the absence of the explanation, we can only second guess. And
the state suggests in an official communication that you are doing a trial, you are expending state resources and money, and it doesn't make sense to continue spending in that regard. I doubt by your experience and in your training of lawyers and even people within the justice system and the Attorney General, you will make this, recommendation that the balance of 2-point-something billion it's okay to let it slide rather than spending state resources to prosecute people over that.
If the state can recover it, I will never make that recommendation. Look, in taxation, there's a principle that you don't use good money to chase after bad money.
That's right.
You don't use resources to look for tax money that you may potentially not get. In some ways, that one might say that may even apply in this case, i.e., if the state deploys resources to get this money back, would the state make it back? Perhaps not. But the counter argument for others would be the state should not necessarily choose to go after the money. And if the state can't get the money back, then the collateral punishment or consequences in criminal justice should apply. So that's the point I'm making, that ultimately, all these considerations are legitimate, but they are speculative. In the absence of the knowledge of the basis, the mechanics, the metrics that went into consideration of why the percentage of amount of money paid is adequate and sufficient and a good basis to foreclose the matter, we might just have adequate information that justifies that. But until then, we can only speculate.
All right. I'm bringing my other guests in to look at the other aspects and financial sense in all of this. But I'd like to end with you on this question. Of course, there were standing trial on charges of willfully causing financial loss to the state, money laundering, and dishonest appropriation of public funds. The Attorney General, in its letter, which it came to the public, said that the decision does not, and I'm quoting them, does not imply an absence of wrongdoing nor a vindication of any conduct. They say this was only practical step aimed at avoiding further legal and administrative cost. So I heard you suggest that because this was not a plea bargain, so to speak, which would have terminated the trial, in a manner that does not allow them to be brought back in future. You are saying that this may be resurrected in future? Would you have it resurrected in future?
I do think that it is plausible this matter may be brought back in future, especially if you have a situation in which a new evidence is discovered. If the Attorney General entered nulli prosequi as nulli prosequi, then potentially you can bring it back in future. You can't bring it back in future. But if the Attorney General just withdrew it, or you said earlier that because of an entry of nulli prosequi, this matter could be revisited. That's why I asked you the question. For nulli prosequi, no. If it was, again, I don't know I have to confess on this. I haven't followed exactly there's withdrawal and there's nulli prosequi. You can't bring charges in respect of one, but you can bring charges in respect of another for the future. But even for nulli prosequi, once you can discover a material fact, which wasn't part of the circumstances that led to the withdrawal, a matter withdrawn under nulli prosequi might just be revisited on new charges. The point is, once you have an additional charge or once you have a tweaking of a charge, the matter is a new charge altogether. So this is not something which is entirely closed. It doesn't stand in the same double jeopardy context as an atrofo convict, where a person might have been convicted and that's it. You can bring back the matter again. In this circumstance, once you can find something which is materially slightly different from the current charge, even for the future, there could be a re-prosecution of the person involved.
Okay, thank you. Prof, stay there for us and let me get my other guest have a bite at this. Yeah. How do you feel about it? Some members of the public say, like Martin said, half a loaf is better than none. In fact, the prosecution could have ended in the state getting zero. As we saw in the out-of-forcing trial, Japa trial, prosecutions can end in nothing. In that case, some of us blame the Attorney General that the money was actually up for grabs. And he used technicality not to accept it. And now everything was lost. Not a dime is recovered. So some say, if you get 60%, why not?
Well, Samson, let me greet my constituents who brought me here. Also to greet our panelists. I haven't met you on this program for a very long time.
Never been. This is my first time.
Yeah, so it's good to.
He doesn't like me that much.
Okay. Samson, I think.
Okay, so hold on 1 second.
Yes.
So you realize that I didn't invite you here. Right?
I know. Well, you could have.
No.
Over the years.
No. I'm saying this just on a lighter note.
Yeah.
But I want the public to know something. All of you here, I didn't invite you. Because here, it's a professional program. Unlike elsewhere where the host is just for Kobo, calls people to come and do. Here, until around 9 p.m. last night, I didn't know who was coming on the show. Okay, please go on.
Yes. So, something I would say that this conversation is good for us. It is important that we progress as a nation. And I find it interesting that questions are being asked and the Minister, the Attorney General, has indicated that he will provide more information. On the issue of whether we should cut our losses or we should continue to incur more losses, especially when we are not sure of the outcome of the prosecution. From the point of view of a finance person, I would say I won't throw good money after bad, especially when I'm not too sure whether I even get a dime back. But there is a bigger conversation that we need to have. Sometimes I heard you mention 30 billion being spent on financial sector cleanup. I agree. But people should not think that the 30 billion was spent on saving UNIBANK. It was spent on the entire financial sector cleanup.
400 plus.
Exactly. So we are looking at 5.7 or 5.8 billion out of 30 billion. What happens to the rest, which is the biggest chunk?
In fact, there's also the other argument,
yes,
which your friends like Obne Japan buys in, that we could have saved 8 billion and not collapse the banks.
Yes, I'll come to that. I'll come to that. So we need to question the decision itself. And it has come to our notice, and based on recent developments, that if for nothing at all, but for regulatory forbearance, we would have lost NIB. Okay? The deposit in NIB is about 6.9 billion. It has cost the current government just a little about 2 billion to save the bank, and therefore not look for 6.9 billion to give to depositors and to save 900 jobs. So quite clearly, it stands to reason that the decisions that were taken need to be interrogated as to whether that was the best decision to make, whether we needed to go spending so much money just to solve a 9 billion problem. Certainly, there are questions there to be answered. And I agree with you when you say that the regulators at the time needed to answer questions. But of course, it's not only the regulators. Let me assure you that no regulator will take out a bank and impose the fiscal burden on the fiscal authorities without their approval. So the finance minister has to go to cabinet and make a case that the state must cough up 30 billion for banks to be dissolved. So we need to ask the government at the time, what was the basis for spending 30 billion and approving a transaction that will lead to the collapse of those banks without interrogating other alternative means of addressing the same problem? So that conversation needs to be had. And it brings about the biggest conversation around making sure that our regulatory processes are so tight, not just to ensure that the quality of our assets in the banking sector are good, but to ensure that the corporate governance processes are able to protect all of us from these type of exigencies. So I would wait to see what my big brother, the Attorney General, will say further. But I think that the country must open a bigger conversation into the decisions, the rationale behind collapsing the banks and spending 30 billion, when it has become very clear that we just avoided a 6.9 billion problem with just 2 billion. You know, and that bank is already making profit. Only recently, they declared that just the first quarter alone, they've made a profit of 74 million Ghana cedis. You know, and jobs have been saved.
What information do you have? Is it actual 60% of this money that has been paid in cash, or its assets that have been recovered? that constitute the 60%?
Unfortunately, I don't have those details. You see, the bigger problem that we even have to have is this. Those banks had assets taken over by somebody.
That's right.
There were loan portfolios that were supposed to be recovered by somebody. There were assets of the bank that were supposed to be recovered by somebody. How much is that, and how much of it has been recovered?
Yeah,
that could be far bigger than the figures we are discussing.
We know the GN banks, the
and all of
Capital Bank, all their properties across the country were taken over
recently
by
I saw
Consolidated
in the
Bank.
papers about the case of
And
Beige Bank.
Ghana Commercial Bank.
Yeah, Beige Bank. Recently I saw that he had been successful in the court. I don't know what that means. But that simply means that it is possible to end the trial with nothing in hand.
That's true. Okay, but in the wake of this, in 1 minute, what will you say? Is there a justification to continue to have Atuesian in jail? His liability was 90 million. He paid almost 40 million and said, I beg you, give me time, I'll pay back.
Well, I don't know the circumstances. And here, in fact, I will hire you as a lawyer to explain to me what your thoughts are. I don't have any thoughts on this because I don't have the capacity, to make those judgments that were made at the time, and as to whether at this point in time, Atuesians being incarcerated is justified or not. I think time will tell.
Let's hear from Kojopuku.
Something, I beg you give me a bit more time to do two things. I already had my thoughts on the legal issues, which Attorney General, based on filing a nolle prosequi. I wanted to comment on that. But there's this topic that keeps coming up, and I want to really address it today, since this is one of the most authoritative shows in the country, which is why we have spent, people keep saying that why did we spend 30 billion to collapse banks that we could have spent 8 billion? Let me really put that to rest today. Please help me. Look, banks, before they are collapsed, which the Bank of Ghana withdraw its license, have to be insolvent. So there is an insolvency, meaning that the bank is not fit for purpose. So it's not government. There are two institutions here. There's government and there's Bank of Ghana. All the banks, prior to 2018, in 2016, the Bank of Ghana did what is called an asset quality review, which is to check your non-performing loans as a portfolio, check your asset ratios, your insolvency ratio, and all the ratios that there is. Then there are benchmarks with which you hold your license. You fall below that benchmark, Bank of Ghana will prompt you that, look, bring your insolvency to the benchmarks that is required for you to have your license. UNIBANK, as far back as 2014, was below those ratios. So it was getting what you call a liquidity support from the Bank of Ghana.
Just like the others.
Yes. But I just want to stick to UNIBANK for a minute. They got as much as 2.2 billion Ghana cedis from the Bank of Ghana as liquidity support. They were asked to stop their massive expansions that they were doing. They were asked to stop a lot of things that they were doing. They did not listen.
They
still went ahead and do those things. Apart from government contract, they went into real estate. They went into form all the multimedias and all the things they did, right? So the bank, as all those banks that were collapsed, were insolvent. So it means that they were not fit for their license. When that happens, bear in mind, as of 2017, UNIBANK had an asset of 5.9 billion, right? Then it had a loan portfolio which was bigger than depositors' money. So the loan portfolio they had at the time, loan and advances, was 3.2 billion. Depositors' money was 2 billion. In that case, it means that people's money are in these banks. Now, if the bank collapses, guess what? Everybody loses their money because the bank is collapsed. So these banks collapsed, not because of anybody. They did not. The mismanagement of the bank has caused the bank to be insolvent, so Bank of Ghana withdrew their license.
Yeah, but there's a difference in expert opinion. One opinion says pump as much as over 30 billion to clean up. Another opinion says you can spend less than 9 billion to rather keep them afloat. Let me get there.
Government doesn't come in. This is a purely Bank of Ghana exercise. Government of Ghana has no business bailing any bank. The banks are private institutions. they do not meet their requirement for their license, the Bank of Ghana withdraws that license. Where the government comes in is governments responsible for depositors. What the Danado government did was borrowed money to pay depositors who have lost their money, not to put it in the bank to save a private bank. It's two different things. So if a private bank fails, the citizens have their money in these banks. They've lost it. I have Kujupuku have said on many platforms that I wouldn't have borrowed that money to pay back depositors' money, because most of the depositors who today are saying ill things about that action got their money back. Most of these depositors, that 30 billion we are saying, went to Ghanaians.
You now want to proceed to...
Now, let's put that to rest, because that 30 billion went to Ghanaians. As long as...
We all have issues with...
Well, you can have issues with, but the fact of the matter is that that 30 billion went to Ghanaians. Now, let me go into the legality of
but
that.
I need you to know, I need you to note something which I have mentioned before.
Okay.
Of the 420 financial institutions that, according to the Banks and Special Deposit Taking Act, they will have to be affected because of insolvency. There is proof that some were not actually insolvent. There's a matter which is live in court now. I won't talk about it. The Bank of Ghana led them to use their own funds to pay off all depositors and left balance in their accounts for the shareholders and everybody. That shows an institution that was not insolvent.
That's the Bank of Ghana issue.
You wanted to make a small point.
Yes,
Make it quickly.
I just wanted to say that as a government, you have a responsibility to the financial system, first and foremost. So if a bank is insolvent, and you think that by the central, and there's no way the central bank will take that decision without consulting the central government. If you get that consultation, and you are aware, for instance, the Bundesbank or one of the German banks will go there for loan these days. It was a private bank that was struggling. The government of the day didn't collapse it. You could simply say, look, shareholders, we want to come in and support you and save the financial system. Can we agree a system that allows us to get involved as shareholders? Put the part of this 30 billion as shareholders, work with you to turn around the bank and have an exit strategy to give it back to you.
Which is exactly what we did.
Exactly.
Which is CBG.
What you did. So what you do is not to spend 30 billion to pay depositors.
No, but what I'm saying
now, you must also understand that the government's own banks were insolvent. NIB was insolvent, had negative net worth. Was it collapsed? Because government consulted the central bank and agreed to exercise regulatory forbearance. It has kept it for all these years. How did the government...
ADB has some problems.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, so please.
So it is not true to say that because it's a central bank,
money
it's owned by the private person.
Thank you, Adomo.
You can't get involved.
Part of that money was what gave birth to CBG.
Right.
Because when CBG was formed, bear in mind, when you put bad banks together, they don't become a good bank. You put bad banks together, they still have the problem. So government now intervened by pumping money into that company for them to raise new capital. So that happened in CBG. So let's move on. Now,
Are you in support of this decision?
No, not at all.
To take 60% and
not
let it
at
go?
all. And that is where I'm not a lawyer, but I speak to lawyers a lot. And with my little common sense, I wanted to understand a few things. There is a procedural problem for me. When somebody is charged with a crime, he goes to court and he pleads guilty or not guilty. In this case, the 7, including Mr. Dufour, pleaded not guilty. If they pleaded not guilty, they have to now prove their case in court, and the judge will decide whether they are guilty or not.
That's right.
At what point did the AG start negotiating with them? If somebody has pleaded not guilty in court, where is there a negotiation? The other avenue for me is that when you plead...
Let me suggest that to you.
Okay.
So in our everyday practice, and I do this too many times, where I let my clients plead not guilty, even though you may think that they should be pleading guilty, but their first appearance, you let them plead not guilty. Then you begin to negotiate behind closed doors.
Okay.
Then if the negotiation works, you go back and change your plea.
Thank you.
And you can change it to a plea of guilty and then get a plea bargain and get away.
Thank you. So in that case, the only time you can now plead guilty, and then a plea bargaining comes in, and that plea bargain is presented to court, as a way to ending the case. Did they happen in this case?
We are not aware of it.
It did not, because the man went to court. He's found no. Because bear in mind, the money retrieval is part of sentencing, because forfeiture is part of sentencing. When you are sentenced, your recovery of the money is part of sentencing. In other jurisdiction, you are given 5 years plus a forfeiture trial. So when you do not recover a certain amount that the court sets, you are now asked to come back and they will add to it. So let's say you are given 5 years and a forfeiture of, let's say, 60% or 80% of the money that you've gotten through ill-gotten gains. Then if you do not recover that money, at the end of your tenure, of your sentencing, you go back to court and the court says, yes, in failure to bring back the 80%, do another 4 years. So forfeiture, which is the recovery of the money, is part of sentencing. What we should remember, and I like what other people have said, that we are now creating an avenue for loot. Because when people realize that you can take enough, do anything that you want to do, and the NDC for me is sad because, bear in mind, they promise us that they are going to protect our public purse. In protecting the public purse, the Minister of Finance, and I like when you read that thing to Professor Abuchi, is that 2.2. They are saying that they don't want to continue because what? They don't want to now go, my brother has repeated it, chase after whatever. Somebody is doing 15 years today, right? How much was her crime? 15 years. So what the state is supposed to go after is the indictment, is the punishment. Forget the money, because a crime has been committed. And as my brother rightfully said, if you now plead not guilty, then prove your case. But if your lawyers negotiate and you want to refund, then there should be an indictment, because you can't have it both ways. You can't have a no indictment, because now, as we speak,
what they have done is to file a nolli prosequi, which is a power given to Attorney General or the state to, at any time within the trial, decide to stop it.
Yes, so that the person goes away with the money.
Yeah, you don't need any excuse. And Professor Bochi was trying to explain something. We have two of them. We have what we call withdrawal, and we have a nolli prosequi. When the withdrawal is filed after the prosecution have closed their case, there is an acquittal and discharge. The case cannot be revisited anymore. You understand?
Yes.
In this case, he's explaining to you that this is a nolli prosequi, and nolli prosequi does not amount to acquittal. It only amounts to a discharge. So they have said, financial prudence. We don't want to waste more
but
money.
It's not for them. You see, I like the bit where Professor Bochi comes in and says there's a discretion and the Constitution gives discretion and all that. But it's a state's money. I mean, I really don't think that somebody appointed an Attorney General today, 2.2. Attorney General is in court, is in many courts. And rightfully, all the lawyers have said that you give a nolli prosequi, you don't give explanation. Case ends there, because they've done it in several cases, right? There are many nolli prosequi that no explanation was given. Everybody will speculate and say whatever. But this case, you've opened yourself to the conversation.
It's progressive jurisprudence.
Well, that's fine. But the point,
there's public interest. So if you file a nolli prosequi, I explain.
But the point is that what explanation you are given that you think that you do not want to now chase after that because it is not worth. Attorney General across the country, the state attorneys are in court for 100 cedis, 20 cedis, 50 cedis, people who have stolen goods. They are being prosecuted.
That's right.
So why are you telling me that 2.2 billion is what? Is you don't have enough money to go after 2.2 billion? That is where the state is looking. And especially from a government who told us that they are going to protect our public purse. I think I'll leave it there.
And they are recovering all loots. Yes. Let's see what appears views will be about this. Yes.
So I'll look at it from just the legal side and also the financial side. So on the legal side, I think, as you know, the Constitution empowers the Attorney General to initiate all prosecutions. At the same time, he has the power to discontinue, which is what he has exercised. So the question you ask yourself is, the initiation of the prosecution, at the time these individuals were sent to court, did they comply with the Constitution, which the Constitution enjoins them to? Was it based on fairness, being candid, or was done out of arbitrariness or capriciousness? So that's the first question you ask ourselves.
And remember, it was a different regime.
It was a different regime.
And prosecution is a political decision.
Yes. So if that power to exercise the prosecution is being done or exercised, it has to comply with the requirements which the Constitution also enjoins you. So the Constitution enjoins you to initiate the prosecution. But if you are initiating it, it has to be fair. It has to be candid, and you should comply with that. So if it's born out of bias, then it has to be questioned today. And if it's questioned today, then some of the decisions that have been taken to discontinue will be considered. The other question is, if today we are discontinuing the decision to prosecute, is it also based on fairness? I think the overarching objective of this is to bring justice and also to recover funds that were lost to the state as a result of individuals' action. Yes, you can question the nolle prosequi on the basis of political, which is decided case. You can question it like we're going to do. And obviously, the Attorney General will seek to explain the political side maybe on Monday. But for us, we as citizens are looking for justice where it's supposed to be delivered.
Is
and
this
also,
justice for you? Does this represent justice? Recovery of 60%?
For me, 100% recovery would have been the best. But if you look at the process that has gone on, there are instances where you've gone through the whole process and recovered nothing.
Correct.
And so for us, the first is to recover the funds and also ensure justice. So individuals who are innocent do not go to prison. And also those who are supposed to go to prison or suffer the punishment. Something, I'll take it beyond the legal side and go to the financial side. So our corporate governance regime must be enhanced, particularly in the banking sector. So there's this principle that Professor Bochi mentioned, that banks cannot fail and banks should not fail. Why? Because when a bank fails, it affects all aspects of the economy. Banks are the fulcrum of our economy. They support the telecom sector, the manufacturing sector, the industry sector, the agri sector. So if a bank fails, all other sectors of the economy are going to be affected adversely. What caused some of the challenges that we have, for which reason people are being prosecuted today? The first one is lack of competent management. So there are instances where people who were in affairs of these banks were not competent and were not the right people. So in the first place, under what circumstances did they get into positions of the board or executive? So how do we address that? The regulator should ensure that there's proper due diligence before people are accepted to be board members of financial institutions. And they should not be related parties, because when you have family and friends on the board, there's no accountability. The second one is to ensure effective risk management. There are instances where loans were given out to people who did not qualify to receive those loans, and yet they received those loans. And the lack of effective risk management can lead to collapse of banks. A few years ago, about 3 banks nearly went down because a loan was granted without effective risk management. The person who took the loan for about 3 or 4 banks failed to use the loan for the purpose for which the person took it. And as a result of that, nearly 3 banks nearly went down. So if you do not have the right people in management, you will see loans being granted to the wrong people. The third is disclosure. If a loan is being granted or a facility is being granted and a board member or any other person in management is a related party to that company, the person must disclose. And the person must recuse himself for the process of granting the loan. If we do not allow those processes to work, then we are going to have the situation that we are having. So in the absence of effective boards, you see instances where these banks are going down. And I'll give you a very good example. So Elon Musk decided to pay himself a huge bonus. What happened? The board members went to court and blocked that bonus. Our board members of banks and financial institutions are empowered to go to court and prevent management from doing what they are supposed to do, or even prevent them from doing what is not right. So Elon Musk, after he failed in that case, because the judge ruled against him, he said judges should not be in the boardroom. But judges should be in the boardroom where the wrong things are being done. And so if our board members are not empowered, they will fail to supervise this, and instances where the person is not even qualified to be on the board, they cannot challenge the decision of management. And so I think we should look at it broadly, that the regulator should enforce the law. The Banking Act empowers the Bank of Ghana to do a lot of things.
How do you feel that you were called upon as a taxpayer to pay money towards this 30 billion that was spent in the cleanup, and yet none of those in charge of regulation, those who were supposed to ensure that what happened did not happen, none whatsoever is answering for it? not in some other place or in a courtroom.
And I think,
how do you feel about that?
I mean, for me as a person, I feel bad. It's something that we should even not have allowed to happen. And in one of the fora I attended, beyond even we the taxpayers paying, there was a point where financial institutions were asked to pay certain levies to support. These are financial institutions who did not contribute to this mismanagement and collapse of the banks. So a financial institution is being asked to pay additional taxes for the mismanagement by another bank or institution who they were not involved in management. So it is beyond even the citizens, the banks that are doing well and ensuring the right things are done. In one of the international banks, the CEO said some of the things they read about these financial institutions that collapse, they cannot even think of doing them, not even to think of even executing them. They cannot even think, because in an international bank, they have proper controls. And so if you fail to implement the right controls, these things will happen. So as citizens, we are asking
what do you expect to hear from the Attorney General when he brings the explanation about the 60%, which should translate into 3.4 billion Ghana cedis?
I think beyond the recovery of the 60%, are we bringing individuals who mismanage public funds? Because it's a private institution, as said, but as soon as they receive public funds, they are accountable to the state.
Okay. Dr. Drosai, thanks for joining us. Dr. Drosai is also a lawyer, so with his background in auditing and everything, it should come handy, and his background also in governance. Doc, so when we did the Office of Special Prosecutor Act, we put in it that if the special prosecutor ever does a plea bargain, he should explain to us. The Attorney General is not bound to explain, but he is beginning to explain these things. What are you expecting to hear from the Attorney General over this UNIBANK matter?
Thank you very much,
all eight accused persons standing trial are free.
Thank you very much, Samson, and good morning to my colleagues on the panel and viewers. I think it's a step in the right direction. Even though it is not mandatory, it is not required of him to do that. The more you carry the people you lead along, the better they understand some of the basis for the decisions you took. I am expecting him to give us a 360 degrees feedback on what is going to happen going forward. I mean, an explanation on the 60% recovery, like you rightly said, whether it's in asset or in cash, and then how he intends managing that one. And then also how he intends recovering the remaining 40%. And then going forward,
should he be showing evidence of the 60%?
No, I don't think that his press conference would have to show us the evidence. We should have confidence in our Attorney General, and we'll take him by his words.
Why not? Why not? It is our money. This is public money. So if you are recovering, if you say it was stolen in causing financial loss, money laundering, dishonest appropriation, and you are getting it back, we should see the evidence of it, the receipts.
Yes, Samson. I can tell you that if he comes out to tell us that he's recovered and it is cash, and we want further and better particulars of receipt, we'll be able to get it. After all, something you work so hard under the right to information to get the right to information law passed, so we will be able to get it. At this stage, I don't want to doubt him. I want to give him that benefit for him to come and explain the process of recovery, what has been recovered, and the steps he intends taking to putting in place for us to get the remaining 40%. I also want to hear from him what is going to happen to those who contributed to all of this. It is an important factor for me. We had external auditors who were passing the financial statement of these banks. Every now and then they express a true and fair opinion. Then all of a sudden there was a crackdown. What is going to happen to these people? There were people working in Bank of Ghana. There were people who were supposed to do certain things. They failed to do that. What are we going to do to bring closure to this matter? I think it's very important.
Doc, you said you want to hear from him what will happen to those who are responsible for this.
That's right.
His government does not share in that policy opinion that the banks should have gone down. that there should have been another approach, not this approach. So a former, governor who was, also implicated in standing trial has been, as it were, also freed and become the governor of the Bank of Ghana. How do you expect him to come and tell you what will happen to anybody else?
Well, I think it does not prevent him from being open and telling us what he intends doing. Because you see, he owes Ghanaians a duty to explain to us what he intends doing. So I think that, look, 60% we've recovered. What are we going to do to the 40%? How do we intend preventing these things from happening in future? Remember, if you are not able to tell us how you intend dealing with the issues, especially those who contributed to all of this, it is likely that it can happen in future. So he needs to carry us along where we are going, and how we intend preventing it.
The previous government that shared this opinion about the causes of the collapse, why it took them over 7 years and they didn't put all the regulatory people on trial, they didn't question them in any forum. Why should this Attorney General take that responsibility on himself?
I think I cannot speak for the previous government. I would not know why they did not take those actions. But for now that we have an Attorney General who is prepared to discontinue a case on 60% recovery, and he intends to clean the system, I think this is the time for us to ask him those questions.
Okay, so as a taxpayer, you are happy that we got some 3 billion, the 2 billion left. Famanyame, we should move on?
Not at all. Famanyame, we don't use Famanyame to govern a country. Yes, we've had a 60%. We should push to get the remaining 40%. And those are the things I want to hear from him, how he intends helping us to get the 40%. I'm not happy as a taxpayer that this is happening, but at least it's better you get something.
Doc, the case has been brought to a finality, so he cannot be talking about seeking any other 40% left. It's over.
Samson, let us give him the benefit. Once he comes to explain to us, maybe there are other options available without going to court. So let us give him that benefit.
They don't have any further, responsibility or liability to discharge. They are done.
Yeah, Samson, they are done. But you see, the Attorney General has not disclosed the entire negotiation processes and what was specifically agreed with them. So
he has not said there's anything outstanding.
Yes, he's not said it, but I still believe he can do something. Well, we want our 40%. How he goes about, because when he was taking the decision for 60%, he never consulted us. And we believe that he's an Attorney General. He's taking the best of decisions with his government. We expect him to find a way.
Look, I still don't understand. If the Attorney General wanted more than 60%, he would have asked for more than 60%. What the Attorney General says they have got is 60%, and they say that is enough. So the matter has ended. And they are actually saying that they are using the 60% as a threshold for some other cases that they will review.
Yes, I can understand where he's coming from, but I will still say that we can have this conversation after he's giving us his rationale or his reasons and what he intends doing. That will give us enough context for this discussion.
But you are happy with this outcome?
I'm happy, not totally happy, but to some extent, once we have something in hand, for me, it's a good sign.
Okay. Professor Abochi, your very final comments on this. Having listened across the finance people, finance energy, finance banking people, having heard the auditors also speak, what will be your final word?
I think there are competing considerations, and the competing considerations are that, one, we want to serve a notice of de-incentive. There's a danger of creating a perverse incentive where people might think that indulging in bad behavior actually pays. So you want to prevent that. You want to prevent a culture of people benefiting in a perverse way. But at the same time, you also want to maximize and be efficient in your collection process. And so you want to encourage people to step forward and to be cooperative and to, as it were, help the state recover the money. So you have these competing considerations, and any Attorney General, particularly given the number of prosecutions that are lined up or that are intended, one needs to be efficient, and capacity issues are also there. we may not have the requisite capacity issues, the forensic capabilities, the auditing capabilities, and all the other technical expertise that an office of an attorney general should have. So all these considerations may go into determining whether or not, under some circumstances, an attorney general should accept payment that is actually less than optimal. But as I indicated, until we hear the full set of facts informing, or the metrics informing his taking or making of a decision like this, one can only guess and speculate, and in the circumstances, we won't have the full answers.
Okay, please listen to journalist and journalist trainer, and also good governance advocate, Suleiman Ibrahima at the Media Foundation for West Africa. He's talking about a precedent that is being set. The politicians will come in, loot, and then simply say, I'll give you 60% back and let me go. Listen to him.
If you are going into a case and you know that you don't have strong basis, you don't have the evidence to be able to convict, then perhaps you would say, well, if I can get something from this, that's fine. I think that was the issue that came up when eventually the Japa acquittal happened, because people said, well, the Big C company or whatever their name is, at some point was prepared to pay a certain amount, and the AG then turned it down. And it then turns out that we get zero instead of whatever we could have gotten.
Sure.
Now, in that case, we are talking about a situation where the AG says, I believe on this matter, even if I proceed, there's no way I can convict and be able to recover the resources. And under the circumstances, whatever this person has offered, we have accepted it. But if you look at the letter yesterday, that's not it. It concludes by, as Martin was saying, it concludes by saying that this is not to say that there was no wrongdoing. And I'm happy that someone like Martin was part of the oral committee. And oral, we were told, is Operation Recover All Loot. I don't think it was Operation Recover Partial Loot. And I think if we are going by it this way, as I said yesterday, if I misappropriate 100 million cedis or something, to that effect, and then in the end, I know that the system is said that if I put forward, even not 60%, but 70% of whatever has been taken, then I'm going to do away with the 30%. So the example that I said, if it involves 100 million, and I know that if I manage to give out 70 million, I can keep the 30 million cedis for free. Then that's an incentive to engage in all manner of things.
Prof, so now the point is that this is bad precedent, and the political group, they will use it. We know what they do in this country. They will use it. Don't you think the nolly proscribed powers are being abused in this circumstance? So if the trials that have started now don't end by 2028, many will not end by 2028, I can project, and then government changes, and it happens to the NPP, you have given them a good precedent. They will just file nolly proscribed for all of these people and say, bring 60% of what you have stolen and go free.
Samson, as I indicated, a nolly proscribed, there's always the possibility of coming back. And so another government, another attorney general, this same attorney general might decide to re-prosecute the accused person for pretty much the same punishment, the same charges that have been brought against him. It's important for us to remember that in justice, there are two aspects of it. We have what is called the restorative justice, and then we have the punitive justice. The restorative justice is where you seek to restore a victim to the state in which he was before the offense. In this case, the victim is the state. The hope is that we are restoring the state to where the state was before the monies were expended in compensating depositors, among others. Question is, if that was what was driving the Attorney General, then that is where the argument of imperfection or an imperfect restoration comes in. i.e. the attempt to restore the state to the status quo ante, has not been quite perfect because we haven't recovered exactly the full amount involved. But then again, as I indicated, we don't have the full facts, so I'm not able to speculate. You know, a lot of the discussion will be just open-ended speculation.
Restoring the state, this is actually my final question to restoring the state, as you suggest, back to where it was. Even in our court acts, when you are dealing with these matters, you don't only pay the principal to go free. You pay the principal plus restitution. You pay something extra. And that's the purpose of plea bargains that are done. Is that not so?
No, that's correct. But again, these questions, for plea bargain, as you may understand, for plea bargain, sometimes the state loses something for purposes of gaining something. And so, for example, someone may be hiding an asset. Yeah. And they will tell you that if you make a disclosure of the assets you have, we are going to ask for zero sentence. We are going to drop charges, among others. So the state makes a concession. I am not sure, and again, I don't have the facts, so I don't know. I don't know if the state's concession is that we are going to let you walk away with a balance if you pay X amount.
All right.
Because somebody may say that, look, if I pay X amount and the state will still prosecute me and get me jailed for a limited time, then I might as well not pay anything at all. Let me just go face the full rigors of the law, come back from jail and enjoy my loot.
All right.
But the consideration could be that the states could be balancing factors here, that let's recover significantly, and then in consideration of losing the portion, he pays us the significant amount. Ultimately, there may be things we don't know. I would like to hear from the Attorney General. That gives me a better perspective in making a much critical consideration and input into this.
All right.
In the circumstances, it's a bit of, we are just speculating, so to speak.
Thank you very much. And we take a break here, but Kingsley says that nollie prosequi filed is not an issue to me, but the deal where the AG takes 60%, leaving 40% with no prospect of collecting that remaining amount is worrying. Paying back the 60% to me is evidence of guilt. My question then is, where is the punishment for stealing our money? If there is no jail time, we should certainly retrieve all the loot and not 40% remain in the hands of the accused. It is certainly a bad precedent. We'll be right back.
Still, Misaka, and Nemum was a summer brabo, and it can afford Swabrabo.
Misaka pensions, Carol.
Misaka order Sika.
Misaka insurance.
Misaka loan.
Momo Fogusuri ye echumaden, the aboye nyina ye sika ho ban. Se MTN, ana momo jumaye ni befrewa, or the 0244 300,000 ene befrew. Ne numpo orin bitsaw one-time password, ana se upin code. Enti wonso ye wa femu die na ma weni na ho na wonsa enka omo.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
When it comes to your kitchen, don't settle. At Safety and Home Solutions, we combine European-made aesthetics with premium materials built to last. Every cabinet, drawer, and finish is crafted for both beauty and durability, made to handle real life every day. What makes us different? We custom design your kitchen to fit the exact space. No guesswork, no one size fits it all, just clean lines, smart storage, and the layout just fits how you live. And once you approve the design, installation is smooth and fast. No delays, no stress. Our in-house team handles everything with precision and care. Visit us at Safety and Home Solutions Kitchens on Spintex Road opposite the DVLA Ultra Center and start designing the kitchen you deserve.
Having gone to Translight Solar, really, it's been one wonderful experience. Since the system was installed in my house, my daytime could be somewhere around 20 cedis. And so I've seen a marked reduction in my bills. And because of that, I am not paying as much as I used to do when I was relying solely on the national grid. My house has now become the city on the hill. With this current doomsaw, anytime my area is off, my house is well lit. Everything is on point. And I can get as much as 13 to 14 hours with my ACs and everything working perfectly well. So I can say, as for Translight, they are the truth, the way, and the light. You have to speak to Translight today. In fact, speak to them now, right now.
Translight Solar. Translight Solar.
Welcome to the McLean Air Series. I am Joe McLean, your guide to the smoky, dusty, cloudy, choky side of life. Today we are visiting some places that pop with pollution. Let me mask up. Vehicle fumes have taken over the air, and soon this place will find it hard to breathe. According to the World Health Organization, as many as 28,000 people die every year in Ghana from air pollution. You live here, you breathe dirtier air than the whole of Accra. Look, let me show you. What an irony. No burning here. No one is truly safe. Even the posh areas are not spared from the smoke. Look, we can't ignore this. Do something. Call 057-972-4072 or send WhatsApp. You can also speak to your assembly so we all can breathe freely.
This message was brought to you by Infinity 970 with support from Breathe City.
Welcome back. This is NEWSFILE. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. Here on NEWSFILE, we put Ghana first. Now, some of the messages that you have shared, Kweku afloat, says, for me, it is really hard to say whether it is good or not. The previous government brought charges against them, and now the new Attorney General removed it. Are they going according to the law, or it is politically motivated? Atella Kwejo Francis, the Attorney General's decision to drop the case against Dr. Dufour and others in exchange for 60% refund shows display of political leniency. If they are not guilty, they should pay nothing. If they are, they should refund 100%. Kweku Bibi Osaitutu says, utterly poor decision which can only be politically motivated. You can't leave members of your own party for such offenses and go after your opponent for less or similar offenses. The AG is a lip service AG who is doing a disservice to the country. JM must set up. K. Amwa says if the decision to discontinue the criminal case against Dr. Dufour and others is fair, then the imprisonment of Atuesian is on similar charges is unfair. Sarkodie says if the Attorney General can drop charges for 60% recovery against Dr. Dufour, then prisoners who have spent 60% of their sentences in prison should be released. Sadly, avenue has been created to loot the country's money. Later pay 60%. 60% or 70% as long as your government is in power. Then Suleimana Isifu says, how do you reconcile the fact that the current Attorney General was a lawyer of Dufour fighting the revocation of his bank license with the current decision of the Nolly prosecutor, albeit with a 60% recovery? Is the AG not conflicted with the 60% recovery? Does it mean, contrary to the accusations that the banking sector cleanup was a politically motivated actual wrongdoing occurred? Let's build Ghana better than this. The politicians have taken us for granted for far too long. Kwame says, I have serious misgivings about the 60% settlement. In fact, I made posts on social media to that effect. However, following the acquittal of Michael Yineku, the founder of Beige Capital, who was facing 43 counts, I have been wondering if refusing the 60% would have been a smart move. What if the case had proceeded and a not guilty verdict had been reached? I am conflicted or confused, you wanted to say. All right, so I think that I could end it here. Thank you very much. Now, let's see how we deal quickly with the Auditor General's report. That shows a spike in what the Auditor General calls irregularity. Every year they call it irregularity. I don't want to call it that. Misuse and theft. It was 88 billion the last time, and now it's 18 billion, as in 2024 audit. 18 billion. Who is coughing up what? And who is getting a Nolly prosecutor plea bargain to keep 40% in these matters? Remember, when we were going to the IMF, Occupy Ghana, which used to always also audit the Auditor General's report, did a documentary. They did their audit and found 5 years of the auditor's report, monies misused and stolen. If we had recovered them, we would not need to go to IMF, because it was almost 3 times the amount we were going to the IMF for. Yatisikaso. And so let me start with Dr. Odrosai. What do you make of the report and what is in it?
Thank you very much, Samson. And Samson, the report is not good. I should not be happy at all. Especially the 18 billion you indicated is that of only public corporations and statutory institutions, majority of them who are SOEs. And for it to increase by 109% is something that should not be acceptable. The worst of it is that 84.5% of them are recoverable. And when you drill down the composition of the 84, the irregularities, it includes what they call intergovernmental agency debt. And I ask myself, how come that we cannot have a simple reconciliation forum? For instance, if Ghana Water Company is owing ECG for electricity consumed, ECG is owing Ghana Water Company for water consumed, can't we have a simple reconciliation forum to resolve this issue? How come that it became an audit query issue? And then also issues about unretired interest. Bottom line is that it is a no-no. And I ask myself these questions every year. What is happening in the system? Before I even left office as Director General Internal Audit Agency, we were pushing for strengthening control systems, strengthening the internal audit systems, strengthening the laws that can help us prevent some of these things. Apart from the public corporations one, we look at that of District Assembly's Common Fund. That has also increased by 317%. Like 2023, it was 49 million. It has now moved to 205 million. Then you look at pre-university educational institutions. That has also increased by 213%, from 7 million to 23 million. Now, when you look at these figures, it tells you that there's something fundamentally wrong with our system. This is not the issue of politicians. And I always say, that if we want to fight corruption, prevent abuse, misuse, and the loot, we should balance our energies. It is not about the politician. The politician may have a role to play in them, but the technical officers who see themselves as permanent government, no politician signs checks. The politicians give approval, but the checks are signed by the finance officers and the chief directors who manages the system. So I think we have to purge the system.
But Dr. Drosa, it's the politicians who are building a war chest. And so if they will only use these people to get to their destination.
Yes, something I agree with you. But at certain times, the politicians have maximum 8 years. But these are people who call themselves permanent government. Every government will come and go. They are there and they teach some of them how to do these things. Bottom line is, let us peg the system. Let us clean the system. The Auditor General said 84% is recoverable. He should be able to tell us how he's going to recover and the recoveries for the previous years. But I think that heads must roll. Every year in, year out, we talk about these things and we live it. But if we will be able to prosecute people, what happens to the surcharging powers of the Auditor General? The Auditor General has the right to surcharge people and make sure that we get some recoveries. What has happened? So I think the laws are not being implemented well, and they are not biting. So I
Is there a problem of the laws or lack of? Is there a problem of the law or lack of implementation of the laws, enforcement?
I think it is lack of willingness to enforce, because if we crack the whip and we get heads rolling, people appear before the Public Accounts Committee. Then after the Public Accounts Committee will give directives. Public Accounts Committee does not implement their own decisions. Attorney General will take over and nothing happens. I think that it's about time we implement the recommendations to the latter.
So, Doc, we can actually live without the IMF, right? In 2020, the figure was 12.85 billion. In 2021, the figure was 17.48 billion. In 2022, it was 15.6 billion. In 2023, it was 8.79 billion. In 2024, it's 18.41 billion. Do you have an idea what amounts or levels of recovery we have had in the past?
No, I don't. And that is what I want the Auditor General to give to Ghanaians. I know he's done some recoveries, but we will need him to report the consolidated recoveries he's made, especially in this particular report. And Samson, let Ghanaians understand that this 80 billion figure we're talking about is only for the SOEs. There are other irregularities on the MMDAs, DACF, MDAs, pre-university educational institutions, and public universities and colleges of education. So the issue is bigger than we are saying it. But I would expect the Auditor General to, before even putting this report out, indicate the recoveries he's made from previous year's audit. So for instance, the 2023 audit of the irregularity of 8.7 billion, he should tell us, out of the 8.7 billion, I have been able to recover 5 billion. Then it gives us hope that if you tell us 18.4 billion irregularity, out of which 84% is recoverable, then we know that there is hope for the future.
Domelevo was issuing the surcharges, disallowances, running after people, and even because of that, he suffered. When he ran after Osafo Mafo, he lost his job. This Auditor General is not doing that. How do you expect him to recover anything?
He should be able to do that, and I respect Mr. Domelevo for that. Dan will go the extra mile to save money and chase people to pay, and I respect him for that. And that is what I was doing at IA. I expect the Auditor General not to look left, not to look right, but chase people. And Samson, for if you are a head of an anti-corruption institution, you should be able to do these things. That is why we should take politics out of anti-corruption institutions. As soon as you allow politics to go into the headship and the leadership of anti-corruption institutions, you cripple them and they are not able to function. And I respect Mr. Dan Domelevo for that. He stood on his grounds and he was able to chase. This Auditor General can do the same if he wants to. And he started. I would encourage him to do that so that Ghanaians can get the money back. It is no. We should not be seeing these figures and then run to the IMF as if there are no systems. He should be able to recover that. And Samson, there's another one on the whole government account. The whole government account, and let me also tell Ghanaians that the whole government account of the Republic of Ghana has been qualified by the Auditor General. And here is where I have a problem, because his qualification stems from a number of points that the Controller and Accountant General overstated public debt by a certain amount of money. Why should we do that? Why should we find ourselves in this situation, knowing very well that when you overstate public debt, it has implications on a number of things? And I think we deserve some answers from the Controller and Accountant General and the Auditor General. And even the reason why our public accounts have been qualified is a worry to me. So I think...
What does it mean? What does it mean for an account to be qualified?
It means he has expressed an accept for opinion. When we say it has been qualified, it means it is not, the financial statement does not show a true and fair view of your operations, which means there are some material irregularities in the financial statement, which is not the best. So there are three forms. Either you say it shows true and fair view, or it does not show true and fair view, or you say except for these issues, the financial statement shows true and fair view. And for the whole government accounts of the Republic of Ghana to be qualified, I think Parliament will have to ask questions, and I will invite Honorable Adongo and his team to ask questions about why and how the accounts of the Republic of Ghana will be qualified. There is something fundamentally wrong with the system, and we need to correct it.
All right. Just on a lighter note, anytime Isaac comes to the studio, I try to teach people how to pronounce his name. Doc, his name is Adongo. It's not Adongo.
Okay.
It's Adongo,
then,
not Adongo.
Let me pronounce it right.
Adongo.
Correct, Adongo.
Thank you.
On the issue of names, that your social media people, my name is Kojo, not Kwabena.
Yes,
that is not.
Doc, my last question to you will be.
Change my name.
My last question to you will be this, and I suppose you will not be comfortable with me saying this, but you were in the internal audit agency doing a good job, but the system that we run, they come in and then everybody go away, regardless of the work you are doing. Don't you think that you had a role to play to ensure that the auditor does not report this, ginormous, humongous amounts of, thievery within the public sector?
Samson, thank you very much. My previous organization had a role to play because we regulate the public sector internal audit system. And for 5 years that I was in that position, we tried putting systems in place. But we have a challenge. The challenge is the law. The internal audit law of the country was very weak, archaic, and was an obstacle to prevent some of these things from happening. The law was passed in 2003, and nothing has been done about the law. Internal auditors are some of the worst paid officers who are the gatekeepers in this country. And I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and nothing happened until the present government decided to hound me out of office. But I'm happy that it is in the government's manifesto that they are going to pass the new internal audit service law so that they will be able to strengthen internal audit. If you can prevent something from happening, why do you allow it to happen? So I think that, look, the government must be bold, strengthen internal audit. Hounding me out of office will not solve the problem. Get technical people who will help you to prevent, strengthen the control system, treat the internal auditors well, pay them well, and they will be able to prevent some of these things. Because it is better to prevent than to spend energies and resources to chase after money, some of which you will never even get. So why don't we adopt the preventive approach rather than using a post approach?
All right, thank you very much. And people like you, you don't really need these jobs for anything. Immediately he was removed. The international bodies came for him, just like Dom Level. Immediately he was removed, international bodies came for him. So, yes, Isaac, what is it in this report that grabs your attention and makes you feel we are heading the wrong way if we don't do what exactly?
Well, the truth is that I have never had confidence in the kind of system we are operating.
That's a big statement.
Yes, we are basically pretending to be exercising assurance, but the system that we are operating itself doesn't lend itself to proper assurance.
Kukuku, I think, says we are running like a Ponzi scheme.
Exactly. So if you ask me, you have an auditor who technically is an employee of the Parliament of Ghana. The Parliament of Ghana is toothless when the auditor reports to him and simply engages in talk show without prosecutorial powers. So technically, you have created an independent
Is
auditor.
it public accounts you are saying talk show?
Public accounts. They cannot go and prosecute anybody. They don't have those powers. And Parliament is the employer of the auditor. So yes, there's independence of the auditor away from the executive, but to what end? That is where the problem is. Look, before these irregularities, if the Auditor General goes to an institution and conducts an audit, during the process, when they find irregularities, they flag them. They give the heads of the agencies the right to explain away those irregularities so that they can, they can be satisfied with the data that they are getting. If they fail, they flag them. Then at the exit, when they are done, we have an exit conference where they will meet you and say, oh, we have come to do this audit. But these are the material things we have found that you have not been able to explain. Please, are you able to explain them to us now so that we'll strike them off? You are not able to explain. So they go away and say, okay, now we have done, we are going to formally document what you have done. So they go and write to you a management letter indicating all the infractions they have found and the impact of those infractions on the set of accounts. You are not able to explain away those matters. They report to your boss. Your boss only calls you to repeat the same conversations you have had at the Public Accounts Committee. You are done, they give you directives, go and implement these recommendations so that you don't sin no more. You go and sleep. The man who will make sure that those recommendations are implemented was Odrose, who is an internal auditor, who has to make sure that he has people on the ground in the various agencies who will take these recommendations and insist that at a minimum, these should be resolved and not be repeated. These are HND holders, and they are dealing with sophisticated engineers, lawyers, and financial controllers. So at the end of the day, they are not able to do anything. The following year, it is repeated on a large scale. I don't know whether you see where I'm going.
Yeah.
It's repeated on a large scale.
It's frightening.
Then the numbers are going up, and then we pretend that we are doing something only to end the cycle and continue. Look, Dr. Daniel Domlevo started something. We need to strengthen all the anti-corruption agencies. You cannot ask somebody who is not an energy expert to understand an energy contract. You cannot find an accountant who doesn't understand structural designs and how those structural designs become quantities that are priced in a contract. And you cannot ask an accountant who understands the legal implications of the terms and conditions of a contract. So these institutions must be served properly with this array of experts who in the course of the audit can say that the implication of all what I'm seeing is this and advise the accountant auditor to then apply his knowledge in assessing what he has been told. That doesn't exist. So when I go to an audit and I start seeing issues, immediately I have to flag those issues and ask the anti-corruption agencies to now send a team to come and assist me on that audit. Because there's a possibility that this audit will end up in a prosecution. So the evidence gathering must start with my work as an auditor. But this person who will prosecute is sitting there. He doesn't know what is happening. And I'm struggling with an audit. I finish the audit. I report. They call them to Public Accounts Committee. Then you send it to the auditor, the Attorney General. He now goes there to go and do what? By which time evidence is tampered. So the evidence gathering should start as part of the audit. And that there must be reforms to ensure that when the audit is ongoing and very serious matters are identified, the Auditor General should begin to work with the agencies that have the power to build a docket. So by the time they report to Parliament, you are already being questioned. They are already sifting through your documents. They are already reviewing your contracts. Even before the report comes to Parliament. Sometimes the reports come to Parliament and you are beginning to deal with a Public Accounts Committee 3 years or 2 years before. Who does that? So we need to set up and undertake a proper reform to ensure that the ultimate of the audit is that there is a possibility that this will lead to a prosecution, and that the agencies that would have to take over from my work are already in the boat, also gathering their data. If there's nothing happening, I'm not flagging anything serious, we don't need them.
Okay.
But those instances where we need them, for instance, if you are talking about redemption of interest.
Yeah, interest. That's not retired.
I mean,
that's part of what he says is recoverable.
Yeah, so
even rocket science. And some of these are to who? Your own employees.
I'm traveling. I've been given money to go and pay for accommodation, transport, and all of that. I come back, and for a whole year, I've even lost memory of what I did there. It is equivalent to not even attending the program or incurring the cost. That's what it means. And those are not about an auditor. It's about the institutions itself and its compliance. Right. When you prepare the accounts at the end of the month and you pull out staff interest accounts, don't you get worried that the period that this activity was supposed to happen has elapsed, and ask questions why you are still keeping the money? And you are waiting for an auditor to come a year later to validate that.
Even though payroll-related issues decrease significantly, as we have seen in the 2024 audit, don't you think something should be done to kill this incentive for bloating employee numbers? Because there is always the validation that is done.
Yes.
And it is the heads of the institutions. If it's a school, it's the head teacher or headmaster somewhere. If they are being prosecuted, if they become the target of prosecution, don't you think this will reduce?
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm saying is that there is no deterrent. Because it's a cycle. I just have to play within the cycle for another cycle to begin. Then they will turn their attention to the new cycle. Okay? And nobody comes back to what I did in the past. And if I can manage this cycle also, I move to the next.
Right. So
we need to be very serious with the way we implement these systems.
Right.
And people must be held accountable. To be honest with you, when I was being trained, I was told that trust is good, but control is better.
All right.
If somebody is controlled, it doesn't mean he doesn't trust you. But he himself doesn't trust himself, let alone to trust you. So he has to make sure that things are right.
In teaching the law of evidence, we will be told that even if it is told, you are told that it is signed by the Pope. Verify.
Exactly.
Now, yes, like I said, very easy ways to catch those who are responsible for the ghosts rather than going after the ghosts.
The ghosts, yeah.
We don't do that. So we always payroll is ballooned and somebody is sitting somewhere, somebody is dead, they don't report it, and they still, draw that money. Why do you think that it is such a big problem that the auditor says 15.57 billion of the 18.4 billion Ghana cedis that has been flagged is recoverable? And these are in the areas of unpaid taxes, locked up investment, outstanding loans to employees, interagency debt, and unretired impressed. Why is it difficult to get these back when these are the things that are bleeding our economy?
Well, something. Let me read Psalm 89, 31, 33. It says, if they violate my statutes and do not keep my commandments, then I will punish their transgressions with the rod and their iniquities with strips. But I will not remove my steadfast love or be false to my faithfulness. What does that mean? You see, one of the things that we have stopped doing in this country is punishment. And I keep saying it that, look, the foundation of this country is being eroded gradually because the new generation sees nothing wrong with wrongdoing. You do it, look, I employ a lot. And after a few times, people come to you to help people to get jobs. You know what they tell you? Oh, get us government jobs for that 1 year. Everybody knows that the only place that it doesn't matter what you do, you still keep your job to retirement is government jobs. Appraisals, no. Even if there's an appraisal, it is not based on, okay, the state-owned enterprise and all these companies, it is not based on anything. So you are looking at impresses, as my honorable member said, right? These are things, and you see, by the time we are hearing about it at the Public Accounts Committee, as he said, there has been a management letter that had gone, the exit meeting that was done with the internal auditors, the external auditors with the internal auditors. But the fundamental issue is who is in charge of these internal audits. And my brother said something, H&D holders, how are they paid? Remuneration. Former Director General said that they are the worst remunerated. Look at the numbers we are talking about, Samson. If we are to now say that in most private companies in the organogram, internal auditor report directly to the board, right? You are not part of. So management, your report don't even go to the managing director. It goes directly to the board. The board chairman receives it, and the board now deliberates on. The reason being that there could be infractions which the managing director himself is probably part of. So the internal auditor report directly to the board. The problem, and I'm happy my brother, who is the chairman of the finance committee, is saying these things. You guys have supermajority. Don't use it to hound and tease. Do something with it. Because all the reforms you are talking about, all these 2/3 you guys talking about in parliament that you have, these are the brilliant things that we expect the NDC to propagate and amend the laws and make sure it happens.
Respond to you.
No, don't. There's no point. You are the chairman. You've said all the good things that you think should happen. You have the majority in parliament to do them.
Are working on the constitution.
No, the constitution is one thing. But I'm saying that they are set because you made a very interesting point, which is the parliament is the employer of the auditor.
Yes.
The auditor brings its report, but there is no bite at both ends. There's no bite at Public Accounts Committee. There's no bite at the internal auditor. Mm-hmm. So there need to be a bite. And to amend those laws, you don't need constitution amendment to amend those things.
No, you need that.
Well, you guys are comfortable with
for the Auditor General, you need the constitution to be amended.
But can't you amend the act that established the Auditor General? There's
I'm
an
saying
act
that the Auditor General draws his powers from the Constitution.
So you need to amend those.
You need to amend
So hopefully when that happens. But something to a larger point.
Provided you will not also scream that we are going to give a third term to somebody.
Well, I don't even know why that's even a conversation. I mean, something, you're a lawyer and clearly there is a very stringent, and when people keep coming to me and say third term, I say, what third term? Let's go and do a referendum today. I mean, if you want to spend 2 years of your administration doing a referendum about you wanting a third term, let's go out there and do a referendum. Well, that's fine.
But your people are propagating it, you know.
No, listen, let me tell you something. If that conversation ever comes up, I'm 100% convinced, and I'm probably been assured that the NDC themselves will fund us to oppose it. People who are lacing their boots, the Greek ministers and the chief of staffs and the party chairman who are lacing their boots to fight for the NDC flag bearer, you think they will allow His Excellency Joma? Well, that's fine, but you guys, but your people want it more. Because they know that.
Okay, so you go.
Well, there you go. Let's not transgress.
At the just ended election rerun, Abu Jinapo is a lawyer.
Okay.
He was in one of the places campaigning. Did you hear what he said? They are seeking a 2/3 majority in parliament to change the constitution and make John Mahama president a third time.
We all know, but we all know that's not how the law works.
That's what you guys do.
But that's fine. But we all know it is for the facts of how it will happen. It's clearly defined in the Constitution. We all know what will transpire before that can happen. So let's not.
So talk to your supporters.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that conversation, I don't think
there's a lot of gaslighting. Some of it born out of ignorance. Some of it also deliberate, particularly on social media.
Yeah, I know the bloggers are on it, but like I said, look. Yeah. But the most important thing on this internal audit issue is that we need to have a bite. We need to have punitive actions. We need to have instances where the low-hanging fruit, those that can be gotten back immediately. Like my brother said, you don't even have to come to PAC before the prosecution starts. At the time when they are doing the exit, because, audits are done a year after, right? So by the time the auditor is having the exit committee and the infractions are there, he can actually refer it to the Attorney General for further investigation before Public Accounts Committee. So those are the things we need to, because every year or year, it keeps increasing. Unfortunately, this year, my sector, my beloved ECG, seems to have a brunt of most of them, and they said about 84% of the coming from ECG as a state-owned enterprise. Yeah. So it's really unfortunate, but I think something needs to be done mostly on the punitive actions that happens.
You started on a biblical note, very inspirational, and then you made a very profound statement, which is fact, that the foundations of this country are being eroded, and that people defend wrongdoing. Don't you think you, the political class, are largely responsible for this? And I'm saying this because when the law enforcement, EOCO, police, CID, OSP, they arrest an important figure, politically exposed person. When they catch the small thieves, nobody cries. They arrest them and they charge them. You shout political witch hunt. You mobilize your supporters to go and, mass up at their offices. When a court convicts them, you single out the judge. You bastardize them. Do you think we can correct this erosion if this continues, where people don't even know the person from anywhere, but because he belongs to NDC or MPP, they do no wrong. Once they get accused, they are defending them like nobody's business.
I know. And Samson, let me say this. A good sword should cut both ways, right? I have always said, and it's profound you said that. I think last week there was a day that I was in a meeting where I was discussing with some communicators that why do you go and defend someone, quote unquote, alleged to have done something? Why is the party defending that person? Because I think the party communication, I've been on TV and said this and I've been bashed for it. I've always said that party communication has no business defending political infringements. Sorry, government infringement, not political. Okay. The party communicators have no business defending government infringement. So if somebody in the government have done something, let the person go through the process and be acquitted. But the problem where I said a good sword should cut both ways is that the process these people are taking them through, like you just use our brother Wuntumi's instance, the kind of bail that was set for him. And you're a lawyer. I'm sure we all found problems with the bail conditions that were set. He is only an inquiry. An inquiry bail should not be that stringent. So the political influence which goes into those things also becomes a problem. Because if you think, and almost at times, this is what happens. Political appointees who are given to these YOCO and all these, they just want the front pages of the arrest, not the prosecution. Because if you really want the prosecution, the arrest is really because you arrest me today, within 48 hours, you have to arrange me. You put me on the hard floor. I will lie there quietly, eat some gari or whatever. 48 hours, I've not killed, I've not done drugs. I'm on bail. But then you now come and put certain bail conditions that makes it very difficult to meet. Okay. That is where the political witch hunt comes in, because it is not that you are giving me a fair trial, but you are putting impediments in my way for a fair trial.
We need more of your kind in the communication front. See, my major issue is, why can't we collect these monies And he says 15% plus, 15 million billion plus is recoverable. But who is going to recover it? And you can tell from the trajectory over the years, if we're collecting even a quarter of these monies, we don't need any Bretton Woods institution to come here and hand out to us. So we really are not poor.
Yes, you're right. And about 15.5 billion is recoverable. And so why are we not recovering them? You should ask yourself what caused these infractions or irregularities. So according to the Auditor General, we have issues around procurement. Someone said we are running procurement economy. So before a
procurement is a synonym for corruption.
Yes. So if you are running a procurement process where the exception to the rule, that is single sourcing, becomes the norm, you would have some of the problems that we are having. Secondly, we are procuring without doing adequate value for money assessment on the projects that we are procuring. You would have these issues. And then the last is not strictly enforcing the laws. So Honorable mentioned that yes, there are instances we need to amend the Constitution, review the Constitution, but we have enough laws to enforce. The Public Financial Management Act we passed in 2016 empowers us to enforce sanctions such as surcharges. So the people who are keeping this impress, what are we doing with them? Are they still in employment? Why can't we surcharge them? Are we still paying their salaries? So some of these things that are happening in the private sector, the person cannot keep interest for more than 1 month. He will account for it as soon as he returns from the trip.
Correct.
Somebody is keeping that interest for 1 year. So it means that we are not enforcing the law that we have passed. So the Public Financial Management Act we passed in 2016, and we further amended it in 2025 to enforce or bring stricter laws, instances where the Minister of Finance can be censured. Why are we not enforcing the laws? So we should enforce the laws, and I think we should look at it broadly. That I said that we have the Public Financial Management Act. The Act is supposed to ensure that we are properly budgeting for the expenses we are incurring. We are committing government to things that have been properly budgeted for. And so in certain areas, the first one is that the Public Financial Management Act enjoins us to establish an independent fiscal council. The problem we have in the last few months, as you know, or historically, is the fact that fiscal policy is not speaking to monetary policy. And so if you have an independent fiscal council, you have instances where fiscal policy is speaking to monetary policy. In the last 6 months, we've seen that happen, and we've seen the effect of that. So you have a situation where the fiscal side is overspending and monetary policy is increasing the rate. That's counterproductive. So if the two are speaking together, there is stringent and monitoring of expenditure on the fiscal side, and the monetary policy rate is up, and we are mopping up excess liquidity from the market. So that's the first one. The second one is that we are setting rules around budget deficits. Honorable, we passed the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which is supposed to limit our budget deficit to 5%. What happened? We have an escape clause in that act. And that escape clause was that in certain situations, we will suspend that cap. We suspended it when we were hit by COVID. And up to date, we have not enforced that. The reason why we are still under 5% in terms of our fiscal deficit is because I know that it's because the IMF is in town. We will have the vicious cycle of overspend in election years, by which time we would have exited the IMF program. So if you don't check the clause in that Fiscal Responsibility Act and ensure that the minister is enforcing that act, you always overspend in election years.
I should give you some information.
Yes.
If you look at the 2025 budget, we made some amendments to the Public Financial Management Act to incorporate and revive the fiscal responsibility. So it is now in the law.
Yes.
And because of that, the fiscal targets are being informed by that law. I just wanted to give that.
Excellent. So that's really helpful. Yeah. So that we operate under the 5%. Otherwise, you continue to overspend in election years, and you will come back to the same vicious cycle that we have been dealing with. And debt ceiling. Today, our debt to GDP ratio is under 44%. Maybe after IMF, where would you go again? So the PFM Act, that's the Public Financial Management Act, limits us that by 2034, we should have a debt to GDP ratio of 45%. So today we have even achieved that, something that we are supposed to achieve in 2024. So it means that when the headmaster is in the room, we are very much disciplined in the way we do things, but we overspend. And then commitment by agencies. We have instances where agencies and heads of department are committing government to certain procurement where these procurement activities are not budgeted for. And so heads of institutions who are enjoined by this act have to face sanctions, including imprisonment, ministers of state and heads of covered agencies. We have to ensure that that's happening. And then the last one is maybe sinking fund. The Public Financial Management Act enjoins us to fund the sinking fund account. Let me give you an idea of what's happening. So in 2025, this July, we have paid external debt of $350 million, approximately. In 2026, we have debts to service of 20 billion Ghana cedis. 2027, based on a restructuring, a debt to pay in 2027 of 50 billion Ghana cedis. And 2028, a debt to service of 45.7 billion Ghana cedis. If you don't fund the sinking fund account per the Public Financial Management Act, we will have situations where creditors are chasing us at the ministries, or external creditors are defaulting on our external debts because you have not funded the sinking fund account.
Let's check how all of this reflects on the mid-year budget. It looks like this government is left to do magic because of the constraints that they face in the, kitty. I'm going to Professor Abuchi to take my final comments on the Auditor General's report, and one message that has come in from Eddie. He says he sends me a story of a security guard who was sentenced 15 years for iPhone theft. And he says 15 years for attempt, but someone walks with 2 billion on our conscience for years to come. Prof. Abuchi, we have recounted this over and again. I remember having a conversation with you, and you want to look at the thing Africa-wide, how we have such a populous, energetic, as it were, workforce. And yet, we see our leaders running to China, cap in hand, and all of these things. Auditor General's report, they've just become reports. When they were issuing them without issuing surcharges and disallowances, it took Occupy Ghana to go to the Supreme Court, for the Supreme Court to tell the Auditor General that in the Constitution you are empowered to issue disallowances and surcharges before they started issuing it. Even the rules for that, it took Occupy Ghana to work on the rules to be used in the courts. And we are here, we are not issuing the surcharges and disallowances. And the Auditor General says his recommendations should be complied with. If we do that, then we'll recover 15.57 billion.
Yes, Samson, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, so, you hear these figures and we have become sort of numb to them. We have normalized corruption, we have normalized scandals, we have normalized thefts. It's become so normal when you repeat and repeat them over and over again and nothing happens. What we are doing and what we have done is to mainstream corruption to a point where it has become virtually legitimized. Maybe the word corruption itself, and may have to be looked at, because from a psychological standpoint, it seems to have gained a certain legitimate currency. That if someone calls someone corrupt, it's not a really big deal. The word stealing and the word theft still are pretty much unacceptable, and so I wouldn't want anyone to call to say to my son or daughter, your father is a thief. I wouldn't want that. But I wonder if someone says to my son or daughter, your father is corrupt. I believe I'm not corrupt, but I wonder if I would want to spend my money chasing after that person for compensation by way of defamation. So I think words matter. I remember many years ago when female circumcision used to be called female circumcision. It wasn't working until the name was converted by the UN, female circumcision, to female genital mutilation. And then suddenly the practice ceased. So perhaps we want to look at that in terms of the nomenclature that we attach to the name.
That's why that's here on NEWSFILE, we decided not to call it irregularities, but misuse and theft. And the procurement part, we know that procurement is just a pseudonym for corruption, stealing.
Correct. I think names matter. And, kudos to multimedia for starting the campaign in terms of the proper use of words to create an impact and for people to change. As you know, the World Bank estimated many years ago, more than 10 years ago, that Ghana loses an amount of $3 billion every year to corruption. More than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
My conservative estimation is that perhaps we're in the bracket of 4.5 billion now. So we're losing all these sums, and then we are with the IMF for a program that stays the hand of government from undertaking certain social policies that takes care of vulnerable people in our society. So we have major problems, and we don't seem to, address the fundamental problems that actually undermine us as a country. Now, I just want to make one point because my colleagues have spoken to that. One point, and I hope that point addresses this. Our laws still have the law on causing financial loss to the state. Now, I would like to respectfully remind us the reason that law was passed, among others, was to rectify a certain procedural difficulty in the regular criminal code or regular criminal act. And that procedural difficulty is meeting the high threshold of establishing intent when you are making a claim of theft. And so if you are bringing a claim of stealing against someone, you'll have to establish that a person dishonestly appropriated something to himself and to his benefit. In respect to the law on causing financial loss to the state, you don't have to establish any such thing. Once we can show that your conduct has resulted in a loss to the state and that you acted willfully, willfully doesn't mean with a deliberate intent to do something, but you acted with discretion. You acted voluntarily. Once you acted willfully and your action or conduct has resulted in a loss to the state, you have acted in a manner that has caused financial loss to the state. All these irregularities we speak about, all these thefts that we speak about, the question is whether the persons involved acted willfully and therefore whether they were exercising the authority of their office. I think that we have to begin taking action on these things. Otherwise, we are creating perverse incentives for people to indulge in things, knowing that these things pay and that there's a benefit, and the benefits do not come with consequences. I think humans are rational. The economists tell us humans are rational. They calculate their odds. If the odds of doing something is fundamentally in my favor, if I do the cost-benefit analysis and it balances on the side of benefits, I am incentivized to act in a certain direction. If it balances on the side of a loss, I will have to calculate my odds carefully before I undertake a particular transaction or before I act in a certain direction. I think that we've gotten to that point where increasingly every year people have come to that conclusion that the most that they will suffer is a degree of public opprobrium when they appear before the Public Accounts Committee, and then they speak to all kinds of things that shock the conscience of the country. The panel at the Public Accounts Committee will express their disdain and unhappiness. The whole country will complain perhaps for a week or two, and then we move on. And so people have come to realize that there are no consequences. And the most you're going to have to suffer is to deal with the public perception, which at most is probably going to last for just a week or two. And people are beginning to calculate their odds. And in balancing the odds, they've come to a conclusion that it makes a lot more sense to indulge in what you're going to indulge in and to become perhaps rich for a long time to come and pay a next to nothing price. It makes all the sense for you to do that. As I indicated, it surprises me, for example, in the case of the World Bank and even the IMF, the fact that the World Bank estimated that we lose more than $3 billion per annum, which as I've indicated, is more than 10 years ago, perhaps we're in about 5 billion, as of now, 4.55 billion. They've indicated we lose all these, but somehow they have, in some ways, still not invested heavily in closing some of these gaps, but will rather take us through programs from time to time, which also then optimize our debt portfolio with them. And in the end, they are still commercial entities. They make sure that we pay. I mean, nothing given us is for free. We have to pay because they have to respond to their shareholders. So it's important that we come to that conclusion that there are tools and rules here. We just have to implement them.
Thank you. My final question to you, from the perspective you are coming from, action, enforcement, is this: that over the years, these reports are sent to Attorney General, they are sent to IOCO. They kept saying, let's set up a specialized court.
the Chief Justice set up about 12 courts so many years ago, and they were still complaining. Even members of parliament on the Public Accounts Committee still did not even know of the existence of this, and they were still complaining at a time when these courts has already been set up. Do you think that perhaps the Auditor General should now begin to send these reports to the Office of Special Prosecutor rather than AG and the IOCO, where we know there is some complicity sometimes because of the parties that are involved? After all, OSP is now the, if you call like, the focal anti-corruption institution we have set up.
Well, indeed, I totally agree with you. The OSP is a specialized body, however, and we just have to look at the Act. It has a threshold jurisdiction on some of these cases. But once it meets the threshold, and the figures you're mentioning clearly go beyond the threshold in some ways of the OSP. So yes, I certainly do agree. But the problems at the OSP are not different from the problems at the Attorney General's Department, and would have to address these problems cross-institutionally, because it's a combination of things which include capacity. Look, the truth of the matter is this. Persons who indulge in corruption are often persons of means. That means these are people who can also afford the best of legal services. And the truth of the matter is that legal practice in Ghana survives not only on the strength of people's cases, but it survives on the ability of lawyers to exploit the system in ways that advantages their client. And often these are through delays. So delays and frustrations, and very quickly cases die down. So for example, the difficulties of securing witnesses, forensic and auditing capabilities of the office involved, the ability to undertake proper discoveries and be able to garner the requisite evidence before a court of law in a way that will adequately convince the court. And above all that, to overcome that big difficulty of one single reasonable doubt thrown at the case by the defense. So it becomes so difficult very often to prosecute these cases when one is dealing with perhaps poorly or underpaid legal attorneys at the Attorney General's Department or the Office of the Special Prosecutor, who are going up against very well-paid and highly motivated private attorneys who are defending. So the private attorney is well-paid, and he also has a lower threshold job, just to throw in one doubt. The public attorney is probably underpaid and probably under-resourced and doesn't have the requisite complement of auditing and forensic capabilities in conducting the case, and is also having to meet up a very high threshold of proof before them. So sometimes you have these imbalances, and they tend to undermine the cases of the states. And when you have acquittals, then our spirit is further dampened, the extent to which we want to further pursue these cases are diminished.
Thank you,
but
Professor.
we'll have to invest in this if we have to make progress against this moving forward.
Thank you, Professor Bochi. We'll take a break here. A message by Kofi Bentel says, reason for our graft is a culture of perverted mercy. When people have to be punished, we invoke this perverted mercy and let them off. Even chiefs beg for them. Unfortunately, lamentations today are a repeat of our annual ritual since independence. It won't change unless we change. Let me show you how this will stop. Let's decide that if an infraction happens, the head of that unit or institution will be fired and prosecuted as a first step. If he defends himself successfully, he will be reinstated with back pay. Kofi Bentel, the rebel. Thank you all very much. My guest, Isaac Adongo, is MP Bulgos Central, Chairman of the Finance Committee of Parliament. Kojo Poku is Executive Director, Institute for Energy Policies and Research. He's a member of the MPP Communication Team. He doesn't fight for time, he doesn't shout, but he makes his points. Dr. Eric Oduro-Osai is Chartered Accountant. He's a lawyer. He's a former Director General of the Internal Audit Agency. Yao Apia-Late is Partner, Strategy and Transactions, Africa Infrastructure and Capital Projects Leader, Deloitte Africa. And Professor Kofi Abochi is Dean of the UPSA Law School. We'll be right back with Isaac Adongo's forte,
the budget.
Still, Misaka, and Nemu was a summer brabo, and it can afford Swabrabo.
Misaka pensions, Caro.
Misaka order Sika.
Misaka insurance.
Misaka loan.
Momo Fogosuri ye echumaden, diaboye nyina ye sika ho ban. Se MTN ana momo jumaye ni befrewa, or the 0244 300,000 ene befrew. Na numpo orin bitsaw one time password ana se upin code. Enti wonso ye wa femu die na ma weni na ho na wonsa enka omomo.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint. As compared to other paint brands on the market, we take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Number 1 from here, 2 and 3 from here, 5 and 6 from here. For now. Yay. Now I have the number 7, 8, and the number 9.
You need number 10.
Please, I can't eat anymore.
I mean, number 10, liver salt.
The effective liver salt for the relief of stomach upset, heartburn, hyperacidity, and indigestion.
Would you like to try number 11?
What?
Number 10 liver salt. Refreshing relief fast. Manufactured and distributed by Ernest Chemists Limited. This advert is FDA approved.
Hi, now let me share my wildlife experience with you at Safari Valley Eco Park.
Welcome to Safari Valley Eco Park.
Our electric shuttle pulled up, and in no time, our tour began. We were surrounded by wildlife from the moment we entered the eco park. We were greeted by experienced tour guides who took us through orientation and how to better enjoy the experience. Watch these animals roam freely in their natural habitat, undisturbed by our presence. We saw zebras, sable antelope, brown cranes, mara, silky chicken, nyalas, Shetland ponies, and so many animals I just couldn't keep up. Our tour guides taught us so much about the wildlife, their behavior, and how to interact with them. I even fed them. We also went fishing on a man-made canal. Then we took a break to have lunch in this serene environment. All this amazing experience for this price for adults? This price for teenagers. It's a bargain. As the sun began to set, it was time to go back home, but not before dinner by the campfire. It has been a thrill of a lifetime, and I can't wait till my next visit.
Safari Valley Eco Park, bringing you closer to nature.
Having gone to Translight Solar, really, it's been one wonderful experience. Since the system was installed in my house, my daytime could be somewhere around 20 cedis. And so I've seen a marked reduction in my bills. And because of that, I am not paying as much as I used to do when I was relying solely on the national grid. My house has now become the city on the hill. With this current doomsaw, anytime my area is off, my house is well lit. Everything is on point. And I can get as much as 13 to 14 hours with my ACs and everything working perfectly well. So I can say, as for Translight, they are the truth, the way, and the light. You have to speak to Translight today. In fact, speak to them now, right now.
Trends like solar. Trends like solar.
So, Charlie, the deal there, I almost get her.
Syntax pipe, as tough as it can get.
You get so funny with your back, sorry. Oh, what you was that thing? What the cat never won. You can catch it. Hey! Now I'm pipe.
Between and pie and cabo.
Hey, madam, pipe, man.
Hey, syntax pipe. Me tono, omo catch am say no ho den pa. Say ye fie, say ye foam. The pipe we bia aye ne gum.
Syntax pipe.
Why leaky?
Come, madam. From today, syntax pipe in my pipe. No 2 ways.
When you know, pipe ben abe use.
SINTEX pipe.
Syntax pipe.
In carry water. No hala.
You're welcome back. This is NEWSFILE. It's our most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on NEWSFILE, we put Ghana first. All right. And as you know, the Habitat Fair is going on. And this is the second clinic happening in Tema. In every community, the skyline is dotted with uncompleted buildings. Some at the foundation, others at lintel or roofing level. Each one tells a story. A dream, a home in the making. Wherever you are on this journey, whether you are breaking ground, building up, or simply furnishing your space, join us at the second clinic of the EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair 2025 at EcoBank premises Tema Community 7. It started yesterday, Friday. It's going on today too as well, and will continue tomorrow. It's at 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. daily. You, yes, you, listening, watching us from Lashibi, Afenya, Ashaman, Pung, Michelle Camp, Sakumano, Spintex, Pram Pram, Jekojo, and Tema Environs. This is your fair. So come join us at the EcoBank premises, Tema Community 7, traffic light premises, and enjoy. This is just you. It's a one-stop shop for everything you need for your home construction or furnishing. Come over and let's turn your home ownership dream into a living reality. EcoBank, the second clinic, EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair at Tema is powered by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and brought to you by Drive EV Ghana. Drive into a sustainable future. Virtual Security Africa, security for all, safety and home solutions. You think of a door, we have it for you. Superlock Technologies Limited, you deserve the best. DPS Pipes, connecting you to life. Elegant Homes and General Construction, where daily quality meets value. And Gold Key Properties, transforming the landscape. I need to tell you about those who are paying for NEWSFILE as well. Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating entrepreneurial and ethical leaders for Africa. Robert and Sons, I was at Ashesi University on, was it Thursday? Yes, it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place. That's such a serene learning environment. And when you interact with their students, you can tell that they are getting the best of education. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert and Sons Optical Services, except that the road leading to Ashesi from the Dom Kwabenya area, and also even from, if you use the Peduasi place. Can we fix that road? That's really bad. Okay. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. My Way Insurance, dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. Flamingo Paint, simply superior, Syntex tanks. It's strong, it's tough. Activa International Insurance. Our clients are passion. And International Facilities Management Association is proud to be associated with NEWSFILE. Thank you very much. My outfit, as always, is by Konati Clothing. All you have to do is simply call them 0244-676732, and they will make you look good. So now let's talk about the mid-year budget review. As they say, it's a glimmer of hope for a broke economy. How so? I'm going to begin with Yao Latte here in the studio. He'll take us on a journey of about 5 minutes to help us to come to terms with some of the things that happen. Yes, Yao.
Thank you very much, Sam. So we will do the general economy and we will provide updates on taxes. So government actually had some projections at the beginning of the year. So last year budget that was presented for this year, 2025, it has some targets. So GDP was projected to reach 4%. As at June, we are at about 5.3% based on the first quarter results. Non-oil GDP is even higher at about 6.8%. Primary surplus, we are targeting or to end the year at about 0.4%. We are about 1.1%. Inflation, we are targeting to end the year at about 11.9%. We are currently 13.7%. And gross international reserve, that has improved significantly. We are targeting to end the year at 3 months of import cover. We are now at 4.8 months of import cover. So that's positive trend all across the various indicators, And a summary of the evolution of the currency down there, you see that in the last 3 years or the last 4 years, the local currency has depreciated significantly. And in this year, the first 6 months of the year, the cedi has appreciated dollar by 42.6%, the pound by 30%, and the euro by 25.6%. So cumulatively, against all the major trading currencies, an average appreciation of 37%. This is the economy. So you see significant contribution of the services sector. Government should have policies that support the agri sector and the industry sector, which are the productive sectors of the economy. And this is a summary of the mid-year budget review against the target that were set. So total revenue and grants we are expecting an additional revenue of 2.9 billion in 2025. So we initially targeted 227 billion. Now we are targeting 229 billion. Also on the expenditure front, we are expecting an underspend of about 1.4 billion. That results in a budget deficit that is reducing from a targeted 3.1% to 2.8%. That's a remarkable one. And if you're able to achieve that, that's positive because I mentioned the budget deficit cap earlier. And then total expenditure, total revenue. So you can see our budget total expenditure in the last 4 years and currently this year. So our budget deficit, as I mentioned, we've gone over the 5% gap. But this year, we are expecting to be within the 5%, which are 3.1%. And currently, we are projecting about 2.8%. So you can see expenditure. So this is the question that's been asked, or in terms of revenue. So government revenue in the first 6 months of the year, we missed it by about 3.2%. So we are expecting a total of 102.5 billion. In the first 6 months of the year, we only got 99.3 billion. So that's remarkable, but then we missed by about 3%. On the expenditure front, so you can see that there was underspending all the expenditure items, with the exception of compensation. And that can be attributable to some of the union or organized labor strikes that we had, and government had to accede to them. So you can see that in all expenditure front, we underspent on them, and with a total underspend of 13%. But on compensation, we overspent, which is about 1%. Same debt to GDP ratio, that's a very good development. So you can see our debt to GDP ratio is now 43.8%. So dropping from 61.8% by the end of 2024. And then same, so the debt to GDP ratio improvement is attributable to fiscal discipline, prudent debt management, and exchange rate appreciation. The local currency has appreciated, as I said, by 42.5% against the dollar. What that means is that our debt has gone down by about 113 billion. The same phenomenon. So what happened in 2022 was that our debt increased by 93 billion as a result of appreciation of the local currency. So our local currency depreciated by about 50% in 2022. And now our local currency has appreciated. So we are having a benefit of reduction in our debt over this period. And then there's a summary of the key developments in the market. So strong disinflation. So inflation has reduced from 23.8% as at the end of 2024 to now 13.7%. Appreciation of the CD 42% against the dollar, drop in interest rates. So rate on T-bill, 91-day Treasury bill, which was about 27.7% in December 2024, is now 14.7%. Marginal drop in lending rates. So this is where a lot of work needs to be done. So lending rate has not dropped significantly as the rate or T-bill rate. So lending rate has only dropped from 30.3% to now 27%. Now we have other development like increase in commodity prices, public debt has reduced, and then we have upgrades of Ghana's rating. So we haven't from now been upgraded from junk status to stable. And then this has also reflected on the stock market. The GSE Composite Index has responded with a 27.8% increase. Now we'll go to the tax side. So the tax side, we'll just summarize the key development. So the government proposed by the budget as was presented last year to extend the growth and sustainability levy. The law has been passed and the growth and sustainability levy has realized about 2 billion cedis. Increase the growth and sustainability levy for mining companies from 1 to 3%. The act or the law has been passed. Removal of 1.5% withholding tax from proceeds from small-scale miners. The law has been passed. Removal of emissions levy on industries and vehicles. The law has been passed. And then also align the current tax-free regime for personal income tax that has been implemented. Cancellation of electronic levy that has been implemented with the Electronic Levies Repeal Act. So that has been repealed. Removal of 10% withholding tax on winnings. This has been implemented through Income Tax Amendment Act. And then import charges. So extend application of 2% on special import on general goods. So this has also, the sunset clause has been extended. And then where a lot of businesses are asking, or the question they are asking is the VAT reforms. So implement VAT on non-life insurance products and remove VAT on motor vehicles. So VAT on non-life insurance products was implemented from 1st July. So this month it's been implemented. But VAT on motor vehicle insurance premium were excluded. Now the VAT forms, government has initiated consultation process to do the following: abolish VAT on health recovery levy, reverse decoupling of Ghana Education Trust Fund levy, reduce effective VAT rate, reverse VAT flat rate, and increase the VAT registration threshold. So this is something that businesses are expecting. We haven't we haven't concluded on that. And then lastly, we introduced road tolls, leveraging on technology, introduction of overarching legislation for non-tax revenue, and improved tax compliance through enhanced public education. So these are the policies that were introduced, and these are the updates.
One small question in a minute, then I go around because we have very limited time.
Yeah.
Some say this government cannot take credit for the improvement that has happened in the last 6-7 months.
And I will say that it's a yes and no. One, it's yes to the extent that commodity prices has risen in the last couple of years, so in the last couple of months. So gold price last year around this time was 2,300 ounce. Today, gold is selling as 3,200 ounce, a 40% increase in the price of gold. But what government can take credit for is the establishment of a gold board, through which has brought some regulation and increase in export of gold. So export of gold throughout the same period has also increased, and that has increased our reserve. So it's a combination of two factors. So government has policies, especially on the fiscal regime. Government has enforced
the trajectory we have seen.
Yeah.
You must be, I don't even know how to put it, you must be so wicked and not interested in this country's growth to suggest that nothing is happening. When I pull up at the pump and I ask them to fuel my car, at least I know how how long I stay.
Yes.
For my tank to be full.
Yes.
Completely different from some time until now.
Yes.
Right. How is this sustainable? Do you see a sustained trajectory going forward?
So the IMF, per their review reports, the recent one also, has pointed some risk in the numbers. So we are benefiting from increased commodity prices. This may not continue. So geopolitical issues that are happening, implementation of tariff, may affect our foreign direct investment, which we have benefited in the last 6 months. But if some of these issues, particularly the geopolitical issues, may affect demand for commodities, and we rely heavily on hydrocarbons, our oil, you rely heavily on gold, and we rely heavily on cocoa. So you can see, for instance, the local currency appreciated, and we are not going to get enough revenue from cocoa because of the effect that we are seeing. So there are some risks in the numbers, and if we don't address those issues, we are going to have the challenge.
Isaac, what are the pillars of hope in this review that I should look at and feel comfortable, or I should look at as an investor and feel attracted?
Well, what I would say is that the hope that this budget brings is that you can see a deliberate attempt to anchor the economy. You can see that those deliberate choices of the government are beginning to lead to broad-based stability of the economy, not just one-phase stability. And you can also see programs that have been identified to anchor the economy and ensure sustainability. Let me give you some examples. We are aware that going forward, one of the major risks to our economy and to the fiscal side of it is the harms that are ahead of us. When I say harms, I'm talking about bigger bullet payments that the government has to make and whether the government is preparing to meet them. So you are going to pay 20 billion next year to service debt. The following year you are paying 50 billion to service the debt. The following year you have to find 45 billion. And these are just the domestic debt. When you come to the foreign debt, you are looking at 1.4 billion, moving to 1.1 billion and 1.14 billion. Now, and these are in dollars. So how do you get the comfort that you will be able to scale these risks and be able to keep the economy on sound footing? And you would see that there is a deliberate attempt to go back to the sinking fund. And the government has announced that it has set up 2 sinking funds, one for the cedi and one for the dollar. So that means that over the period, government is going to ensure that monies are made available and ready so that the buffers are built to take off these debts when they occur. The second one you would see is also that my brother mentioned the fact that lending rates are not coming down as expected. How do we affect the lending rates? So here you see a coordination between the Ministry of Finance or the fiscal side and monetary policy. Now, when monetary policy, if you look at the last open market operations of the central bank, the interest rate was around 24%. It was about 14% basically from 24%. What that means, and also the government's own treasury bill rates are low. These are the variables that affect the Ghana reference rate, which is the base rate. So the base rate takes 40% of treasury bill rate, and it has come down significantly. So if you take 40%, it gives you a lower figure. It takes 40% of policy rate, and the monetary policy rate that we are seeing from the last 56-day operation was about 13%. So you take 40% of that, it will be smaller. Then you take a further 20% of the treasury bill rate. So all the variables that are impacting the reference rate are taking a downward trend. So when all these begin to feed in, you will see a reduction in government interest rates and a reduction in Bank of Ghana's own operation rates, affecting the lending rate through the Ghana reference rate. So you will begin to see that happen in future. Now you should also see that there is a clear attempt between the government or the fiscal side and monetary policy to share the burden of stabilizing the economy. So initially, you would have seen that the central bank's, the Bank of Ghana borrowing on treasury bills was higher than the amount, the interest rate that the Bank of Ghana was charging to mop up the excess liquidity. What it means is that the central bank was taking the hit for the additional interest costs, and government of Ghana was not. Now you are beginning to see the central bank say that, look, let's shift it downward so that there is liquidity to fund the government. Okay, right. That then means that if there's any burden, it's going to shift also to the fiscal side. So that is a deliberate strategy. Okay. It is not by chance.
Thank you.
And the aim is to ensure that once you are mopping up the excess liquidity and you are stabilizing the economy, you are sustaining that, because then there is no excess liquidity to feed into the forex market.
Right. What can you say in 2 minutes so I can get a minute each for Odrosai and
2 minutes will very easy.
Because our time is up. Because our time is up.
Right, but
yes, this is where you. The major reason you are here.
So let me now make it quick, and I want to put in a quick. Look, the finance minister should know that he sits on a seat that is continuous. My advice to him is that he should stop trying to bring propaganda into his work. He's made some utterances in the last couple of days that is not based on any fact, with the gold for oil issue, where I actually brought my letter from Bank of Ghana to actually show that most of the things that he's saying, Bank of Ghana disagrees with him.
Can you read that?
Yes, I can. Oh, no, you can read it.
No,
you want to read it?
You speak to it.
You want to speak to it?
Yes.
Okay, so quickly. The Minister of Finance said that there was no gold bought in the gold for oil. And he said that to Evans. Evans had a pushback with him, and he went on to say that it's not true. It was cash that Bank of Ghana was paying, what do you call it? For the gold for oil. They were giving cedis to Bank of Ghana, and Bank of Ghana was paying cash to the importers, which was not true, the statement he made. Bank of Ghana, in our letter to them, we asked them, the losses incurred were primarily on gold and petroleum transactions. Detail provided below. Loss on gold transaction amounted to 1.8 billion, which were mainly due to exchange rate differential, the exchange rate which in the gold market for gold purchases, and the bank internal rate. What does this say? It means that in buying gold, the Bank of Ghana gave money to PMMC. PMMC went into the market to buy gold. The rate they used at the local market was different from the internal rate of Bank of Ghana. So in buying gold for oil, the bank made a loss for 1.8 billion.
Is there a right to information request you made?
Yes, I did. Yes, right to information.
When is it dated?
But what does that mean when you say
7 July
it means that the minister said that there was no gold involved in the gold for oil. But there is a letter from Bank of Ghana that said that they made a loss in buying gold. And again, there is no. Let me land. Let me land.
Because you are misquoting the minister.
I'm not. But you can play the video. No. He said there is no gold involved.
You are misinterpreting what you are doing.
No, I'm not. Because
you are misinterpreting.
How am I misinterpreting?
They go and buy oil with dollars, not gold.
No.
What is happening?
Okay, so Sam Process, another point I was going to make. Yeah. There is a company in Dubai called Sam Processing Metal. Yeah. There's a metal account set up with Sam Processing Metal, which shows
so they go and put metal there?
No,
they send them dollars.
To trade gold, you have to have a metal account.
Yeah, but I'm saying that.
Professional, you should
listen,
know
what I'm saying is
they
pay dollars. They pay dollars, not gold.
Please listen.
The minister never left. They pay dollars.
Thank you. They say that the program helped to reduce demand for US dollars from the bulk oil distributors, BDCs, and so on.
Thank you. These are things the Bank of Ghana is saying.
No, but my brother,
listen, he lied.
No, he never.
Listen,
he never.
There were two stages of
interpreting the report.
My brother, what I'm saying to you is that's what I'm saying. There was time, but we can always.
Let's
quickly make my point. My point I was going to make before this gold for oil and
you are misinterpreting.
Okay, so go to that point quickly.
No, I'm not. Please don't do that. You can read for yourself.
No, I know.
No, but you can read for yourself.
It's okay.
If you have it, your minister will
what is sent to you is information that
proceed with the point quickly because our time is up.
He never lied.
The point I wanted to make is that the economy is on a certain trajectory, right? You cannot read the budget and say that the country is in a struggling, blah, 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 trying to make it like there's something that there's no V-curves in the plot of the graph of the budget. We went from 3.1 real growth. I'm talking about real GDP growth. 2023, there was 3.1. We went from 3.1 to 5.7. You are now projecting to go to 6.8. So it tells you that the country is on the right path. When you look at manufacturing did 6.8. The NDC government in the last 6 months have not done anything to help my manufacturing.
What is the growth?
For manufacturing, 6.8.
No, Kenneth.
6.8 in the midweek. In your first quarter.
Okay, so could you,
6.8. So the point I'm trying to make quickly is that they should give credit where credit.
Thank you. You have to pardon me, and we have to rearrange this. Azika Domo is MP for Bolga Central and Chairman Finance Committee of Parliament. Kojo Poku, Executive Director, Institute for Energy Policy and Research, and member of the MPP Communication Team. Dr. Eric Odro-Osai is Chartered Accountant, Lawyer, and former Director General of the Internal Audit Agency. Yao Apia-Late is Partner Strategy and Transactions, Africa Infrastructure and Capital Project Leader. Deloitte Africa, Professor Enes Kofi Abochi is Dean of UPSA Law. Unfortunately, this is all time will allow us this afternoon. I'm Samson Ladia Yenni. Have a good afternoon.
You should have bring this topic earlier.
Yes.